Hey everyone, welcome back to the Keep Watching podcast, where we decide what to watch so you don't have to. I'm James.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we're going to be talking about Survivor. Sarah, are you ready to talk about the greatest TV show of all time?
I thought we were talking about Survivor.
Don't be rude. Don't be rude. Okay.
Sorry.
Survivor 43 is specifically what we're talking about.
Yes. Season premiere.
I'm excited to get to it, but anything else you want to talk about with what you've been watching lately before we get to Survivor?
Let's see what I've been watching this week. The 5th season of A Handmaid's Tale has started, and that's a good show, but a bummer. So I've been watching that.
Yeah.
And then I've also started watching Welcome to Wrexham, which is a documentary about the soccer team that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McKinney from It's Always Sunny bought.
I saw ads for that. Is that good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a sports person, but like it's a good underdog story because like the team they bought is like in the league below the good league, like they used to be in the good leagues, and now they're just way at the bottom, or like it's like below the normal pyramid. There's a sub pyramid.
Oh, really?
And they're trying to get back up to the very bottom of the like good pyramid.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable enough.
And it's a straight documentary, right? It's not
Yes.
like a reenactment. Okay.
I will blame Ted Lasso for making me care about
Interested in it.
football at all, I guess, but
Is the real thing better than Ted Lasso?
No,
No. Okay.
of course not. What about you? What have you been up to this week?
I'm gonna defer any like show watching that I did for next time because I just want to get to Survivor quickly because this could easily turn into an epic podcast with how much I can talk about Survivor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I will say I participated in my first official triathlon.
Nice. And that's what? Running, biking, swimming? Probably not in that order.
Swimming, biking, running.
Oh, so close.
It's considered a sprint triathlon, so it's like half-mile swimish, like a 12-mile bike and a 3-mile run, something like that. But yeah,
you did a good job.
That was good.
I mean, you finished. That's probably, was that the big goal? Just
under 2 hours, which was about what my goal was.
Nice.
And yeah, it was just fun. Running's not really fun. Running, I'll be honest, not really fun. Mm-hmm. But once you've done all that other stuff, and you're just like, oh, just a 3-mile run left. I did all that other stuff already. Might as well do it. But yeah, I don't really like super hard like train for these things. I just like, a friend will just be like, hey, I'm doing this. You want to do it with me? And I'll be like, yeah, let's do it. And then I just kind of train enough to the point where I feel like I'm comfortable doing it. And then I just go do it. Just show up and do it.
Nice. Think you're going to do another one? That's
like the Survivor mentality. It's gonna be hard, but I'm gonna show up and do it.
Nice.
I will finish. That's how I go about it. I do that for like Spartan races too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I've done with the same mentality. Even though I'll admit, for Spartan races, I straight up like can't do the obstacles. So I've had Spartan races. You just
gotta do a lot of burpees.
You have to do burpees, yeah. So like, I think the first Spartan race I did like 210 burpees or something like ridiculous. And then, like, the next time I only had to do, like, 180.
Hey,
but that's, like, a stupid amount of burpees to be doing. But, yeah, still fun, though. You feel accomplished, like you did something at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But, okay. Are you ready to talk about Survivor, Sarah?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Survivor 43. You want me to do my Survivor breakdown?
Oh, yeah.
For people that haven't watched this? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we're going to have a lot of people that haven't watched this. To me, like, I've watched this. This show's came out in 2000 and is still going.
Yeah.
I do remember watching it back in 2000 because a lot of people watched this show back in 2000. I think the finale of season 1 of Survivor had like TV ratings as big as like the Super Bowl. That's how like popular their show was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ratings were still really, really good for a while, but they like definitely like just kept going down and down and down until it gets to where it is today, where it's like there are enough like super fans or returning fans of the show that the show is still profitable and can keep going. And yeah, it's not nearly as popular as it used to be.
Not reaching Super Bowl.
You said you've seen like season 1 of the show, and then not until I made you watch the last season did you check this show out again since then.
I mean, I've seen like Like, my mom really loves this show. So back when I lived at home, like, I would walk through the living room frequently and an episode would be on and maybe I'd catch some of it. But that's about it until last season you made me watch because you said, quote, "This cast is built different."
Yeah, it is. So like recently, I think this is true of like all CBS casting reality shows, although I'm not 100% sure. I think they like agreed to making like maybe like 50% of the cast diverse at least or something. And I think I don't remember. I didn't go back and check last season, but I think this season it's like they did more than just 50%. It might be this season might be the most diverse cast so far.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is season 43, and they already filmed season 44, and they're casting for season 45 and 46 right now. So the show's not going anywhere, Sarah.
Yeah.
And keep going. They film 2 seasons a year in the spring summer period, and then they air one in the fall and one in the winter spring, whatever the main TV show timelines are. So this was filmed in the early summer spring of 2022. It's being aired in the fall right now.
And so these people have seen theoretically all of Survivor. Like, they've had the opportunity at least to see all previous seasons.
Yeah. So season 41 and season 42 have aired on TV before these people went out and played, I believe.
Okay.
So what can happen is like next season in season 44, the season 44 people will not have seen what happened in season 43.
So they can't pull the same tricks on a different group of people.
So they can like do the same twist without the contestants like being aware or being able to like prepare for the twists.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the nature of the filming cycle and doing 2 season basically is why that happens.
Yeah.
Sarah, on the wiki for Survivor, it says the best TV show of all time. It says that right on the wiki.
Oh, well, it must be true then, I guess.
No, I don't have a wiki breakdown for the show. I actually was wondering, Sarah, do you want to break down this show? What is Survivor, Sarah?
What is Survivor? As far as I know,
if you had to explain what Survivor is to somebody, as a recent watcher of the show, but not a super fan of the show,
I would say that Survivor was like the first big reality competition show to like get popular and launch that genre of TV. I think that's fair to say.
Yes, I agree.
And it's a show where a certain number of people, I don't know the number, it might vary, all have to go to an island or some coastal land, because there's always some sort of ocean as far as any time I've seen. And they're broken down into tribes, and they have to compete or get sent home. Like, if your team loses, they have to pick someone to send home. And then over a month or so, it's whittled down to like 3 people. And then those 3 people have to convince some people they've already kicked off to pick them to win a bunch of money. Yeah, that's how I describe it.
Oh, that's good. I like that. That's a good description. Yeah. So nowadays, like I don't know how many seasons back, but for a good while now, Survivor just always films in Fiji. They have like basically their Survivor routine out there, and you'll see like the challenges are like they use the same locations for challenges throughout each season, and even like the campsites themselves that they give to the contestants are like actually the same beaches that are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the first couple seasons, like it would be Survivor and then like location name.
Yeah, they did that for a long time because
they were going around different places.
Yeah, they did that for a long time, and then at some point they started like reusing the same locations, and then they would like name the season after the twist of the season or whatever, like special different way of grouping people or whatever. But now they're past that now. It's just ever since season 41, it's just numbers, and that's fine. It doesn't need names at this point. Everybody knows what the show is.
Yeah.
Everybody that watches the show really at this point is in all the way, and like doesn't really need any special intrigue, I don't think, to watch it.
Right.
It's
the
just
core gameplay is what brings
the core gameplay and the casting of the show is like all that this show really needs to succeed, in my opinion.
And like you want to be on this show, right? Like that's worth saying.
Yes, I do. Hopefully, if I can get my act together, I will be submitting a application for season 45/46.
Nice.
And yeah, the way that works is like you can submit one per cycle, so you're like trying out for 2 seasons.
Okay.
you're trying to get a spot on 2 seasons for that cycle.
Yeah.
Because to me, Sarah, Survivor is pretty much like the ultimate game out of all the games and sports in like known to the humankind. Survivor is the ultimate game.
Okay.
I think it's fun to watch, like no matter what kind of people play. Like they always like, like they always have a breakdown like where it's like there's an even amount of men and women in the whole game, and then there's an even amount of men and women on each tribe, and then more recently like they're trying to make the cast diverse and all this stuff. But really, like if they could make it a season where like it was nothing but women and like or nothing but men or any combination in between, and like it would still be interesting to watch, in my opinion. And Jeff even says, I think in the beginning of this season when they first get to the mat, he's like, anyone can play because there really aren't that many rules. So it's not like, sports where you kind of need to have like good genetics to be good at sports. It's like really to play Survivor, you just have to have like the mental fortitude to like push through being hungry. And I don't know. I guess there like probably is like some people are going to be more naturally good at it than others, but it's not really like tangible what those things are.
Well, there is something to be said for like athletic ability when it comes to challenges at the very least.
Yeah. Challenges I think are not as important on the show. Like if people have watched or listened to this and they've only watched like old school Survivor is like very challenge oriented, and everybody thinks around challenges, and they're just like, oh, keep people around if they're good at challenges. But that's really not the game anymore. Now we're going to see some of that come into play in this first episode because it's kind of like a lazy thing to do when you're just trying not to be the first person voted out of the game. But it might come up early in Modern Survivor, but it's not as like, okay, like we have to keep the strongest people around because winning challenges is the most important thing. So it's not really a huge disadvantage to not be good at challenges. Like some of the best players to ever play Survivor never won or barely won any challenges in their career.
And I'm assuming based on the last season I watched that sometimes late game being good at challenges is going to hurt you. Like people won't want to keep you around because you're going to keep getting immunity at the end or something.
Yeah, it all depends on the mentality of the jury, they call them, the people that get voted out towards the end but don't make the final. It all depends like season to season on that. But yeah, oftentimes like winning immunities to stay in the game in this current meta Survivor can be seen as like a crutch and not really like, impressive gameplay. It's just like, oh, you're just better than everybody at these carnival games or whatever Survivor cooks up to be a challenge, and it's not really like seen as that impressive anymore. Whereas back in the day, people would be like, wow, they won so many immunities, like they deserve it.
Yeah.
But it can be more impressive to not be able to win immunities, but still somehow convince people to not vote you out. Like that's actually can be seen as higher skill. So yeah. So sorry, you gonna play Survivor? You could play Survivor, right?
Oh no, thank you.
Why wouldn't you want to do it?
Comfy and well fed.
So also the new thing I believe for this season, I don't know if they said it or not. I think this is the case. So American Survivor is just traditionally 39 days.
Okay.
But because of the COVID restrictions the last few years, Survivor actually missed an entire cycle 2 years ago, I guess. Okay. And they didn't film any season. So there was an entire year without Survivor, which was rough. Sorry, it was rough.
Yeah, how did you survive?
It was rough, believe me. It actually, it's kind of like you just like forgot about it, and then Survivor came back, and then it was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize how much I missed this. But when they did come back, when they did get the go to be able to film in Fiji again, it was under like COVID restrictions. So
they had to do like a bubble situation.
Right? Yeah, so there's like a 2-week quarantine, I believe, is what the scenario is now, where you fly out to Fiji, but then they can't start playing the game for 2 weeks about. So they actually shortened the length of the game from 39 days to 26 days.
Oh, and that's still true for this season?
I believe that is still true for this season.
Okay.
No, I don't know if they're doing it this season because there are still restrictions. I think that's the case, but it could also just be like they were like, hey, the 26-day Survivor was kind of nice,
Yeah.
Because it's still like the way the show played out on TV was still like very much the same, even though it was 13 less days. And what the show does is they have like nutritionists that are like, this is how many calories these people need to like be able to survive and still like, compete in challenges and not be a disaster.
Be entertaining.
Yeah. When they took away 13 days off the schedule, they were like, and we're not giving you rice anymore. like it was, they are still making it as hard as possible for them, even though it's less days. Like the nutritionists like tweaked what they thought was necessary for the players because it was less days. So it's still very, very difficult, even though it's less days.
Right. Yeah. So no, I continue to say no. I will not go on Survivor. No.
Do you think it would be a little bit fun though?
No.
No, you'd have no interest in like being part of a random group of strangers and trying to navigate the social dynamics. You don't think?
Anything you just said that just came out of your mouth, do you think that's something I enjoy? A random group of strangers?
I mean, it's,
nope.
No. Okay.
Nope.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of like, some of like Survivor has become a lot more like twisty over the years. It still is like the core game, but there are some mechanics of the game now which are a little like board game like, I would say.
Yeah, but it's like
which you like, but you play board games with friends, so it's different.
Yeah, I play board games with friends.
You can make friends, Sarah. Come on.
I know, but you're basically telling me to go into this situation to meet a bunch of people who are going to try to manipulate me and lie to me and screw me over.
Oh, you always see the negatives. You're also going to manipulate to them and lie to them and screw them over.
Except I'm not good at that. So I guess I get to go home early. Ooh, okay, so here's what I need to know. When you get booted off, do you get to go to like some nice resort and just hang out so that way you don't give away that you lost right away? Because I could do that.
Yeah, if you make it to the jury, you get sent to this place called Ponderosa, they call it, which is like, I don't think it's far away from like the camps, but it's like it's a nice like place.
You get food in a bed.
I think it's like still outdoors, but like you get whatever food you want and whatever,
Yeah. When I'm at home, I can get whatever food I want.
Yeah.
I'm not going. Forget this noise.
I don't know if this is still true, but I know like back in the day, if you got voted out before the jury, they would like send you somewhere in the world that wasn't the United States.
Oh, free vacation. Okay, now I'm back in. I'll get voted out first episode. No shame. Let's go.
You don't get to choose where you go, so
oh, that's some bullshit.
Yeah, because they'll wait for the first however many people to get voted out, and then like the first 3 or 4 people might get sent to random destination, and then they like hang out at a resort or something. But you're still gonna have like a handler and stuff to make sure like you're not, I don't know, not exposing the results of the season and not trying to like flee go back home and stuff. Okay, so you're out.
Yeah, I'm out.
Okay, I think you can still have some interesting insight, just because if you did play Survivor, I don't think you would have the same strategy as me.
No,
because I don't think our skill sets are necessarily overlap that much.
You've thought about this a lot, so whatever strategy you have is very built up and advanced, and mine is just like, that guy shouldn't have been mean to that person. Bad move.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. Yeah, you get it. But I think you might have some insight on like, okay, if I was out there and you did this, like, okay, I would think this, I would react in this way, and maybe your reaction to that wouldn't be this what I expected because we think differently.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, you ready to get to episode 1?
Yeah, let's
do it. This is gonna be epic. So this episode 1, it is a 2-hour premiere.
Mm-hmm.
It airs on Wednesdays at 8:00. Did you see the episode name of this of this first episode?
I think it's Livin'.
Livin', yeah. So what they do for the episode titles is they just like pick a quote that's gonna make the edit from one of the players, and then that becomes like the episode title.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might be related to like the tribe that goes to tribal council or something important that happens in the episode, but sometimes it's just a funny quote.
It is just a funny quote this time.
And yeah, it's just Livin', but it's all capitalized. Livin. We'll wait until we get to the part where that's explained, where that quote happens.
Yes.
But yeah, the show starts with a super intense opening, in my opinion. What do you think of the overall opening of the show?
My first bit of notes is just boats.
Yep.
Because there are these 3 like speedboats, I guess, full of people just racing towards some.
Well, before that, they
island,
have like helicopter shots going over islands and drones flying, like getting shots and all this stuff, and then
real like Jurassic Park flyover situation.
Yeah, I literally just like get chills every time it's a new season of Survivor. So
Yeah.
this gets me
Okay.
going every time. The classic Survivor music they use, like everything,
Mm,
it works for me.
yeah.
And Jeff always does these like cool shots. So Jeff Probst is the host of the show.
Mm-hmm.
He actually does these like takes where he's like so like professional at this now that like he's doing the take where he's like setting up the season of the show, and he always says like traditionally it's like 16 people, 39 days, one survivor, and then the helicopter will like zoom out and then whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
but this time it's like 18 people, 26 days, one survivor, and then like the helicopter zooms out and like the boats are literally like coming to him to start the season of the show.
Yeah.
Like I think they're doing this in one take. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Jeff messes up and then they send people back, but I feel like he's doing it in one take because like do you remember, if you remember last season, like he would like he would start talking like to the camera before a challenge starts, and he would be like
Mm-hmm.
explaining this twist that's about to happen to the audience as like the contestants are rolling up to do the challenge.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't know, he's pretty impressive with what he does now.
He's got a lot of practice. He knows
Yeah.
how to bring the dramatic voiceover.
Yeah. So the boats are gonna roll up to the beach where Jeff is
Mm-hmm.
waiting for them. And this is the classic like mat talk. So each tribe like has their own mat and they stand on it. This season has 3 tribes of 6 people, so 18 people total. And this is the American Survivor kind of new era. Like this is standard now. Back in the day, it was like 2 tribes of 8,
Okay.
but 3 tribes of 6 is the like modern Survivor. And I think it is the best. I think it's the best. It's nice to have these
Okay.
6-person tribal councils earlier in the game. But yeah, Jeff is going to give an epic speech and he's going to ask people questions.
And everybody's super pumped because I feel like everybody who is on Survivor is a super fan of Survivor. So they're all like, oh yeah, finally here.
Yeah, at this point, the casting for Survivor is really good. It's like they really want to find people who have watched the show a lot and really, really want to play. And that's like
Mm-hmm.
largely it might be like those are the people that are applying to the show now. But back in the day, like they would like recruit people that maybe are just like attractive and
Yeah.
like maybe they're like up and coming actors. Like I don't know, like they would do things just to get the people that they wanted to see on an island, you know?
Yeah, people who would like stir up trouble or be like a really big personality. I feel like it's probably a common reality casting choice.
Yeah. But nowadays it's like they really want people who want to play the game and play the game to win. So it's the strategy of the game is better than it's ever been, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's going to be 3 tribes. We said that.
Yes.
We do have names for these tribes, but I think we're going to just go by the colors. It's easier to remember for the listeners. So we have a red tribe, a yellow tribe, and a blue tribe. And the yellow tribe off the bat is my favorite tribe. They were the most excited when what Jeff does, he's like, red tribe, you're Yessie, and he like says their name, and then they cheer, and then he's like, yellow tribe, your name is Baka, and then
Oh yeah, they did have a big reaction.
and then blue tribe, your name is Coco, and then he's like, and then he went back and was like, okay, 10 points to the yellow tribe. They were hype as hell when I told them their name. He's a Hogwarts professor or something.
Yep.
So here's how we're gonna break down the show. We're not gonna go chronologically here. There is a lot that happens in a 2-hour premiere of Survivor, and they jump back and forth between the challenges and the different tasks and the different tribe dynamics, and they're really jumping all over the place. So we're gonna try to talk about each tribe and everything that happened to that tribe in one go, and then move on to the next tribe.
Yes. Kind of streamline it.
Yes. Okay. So let me give the things that are going to happen outside of the tribe, like the camp life. I'm going to give those things just so we understand the kind of like the order that things are going to happen in the show. But then we're just going to go person by person, starting with the red tribe, and just talk about things that happened in the episode that we thought were interesting or funny or whatever.
Yeah, sounds
good. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
so they're showing up at the beach, and they're gonna have their first challenge, and this first challenge will be for their supplies. Only the one tribe will get their supplies immediately.
And those supplies are what? A knife, a flint, and a bowl or something?
Yeah, a pot, a machete, and flint. So no
There you go.
rice, no rice for these people. And yeah, so one tribe will win, and then the two losing tribes will have, when they get to their camp, they're gonna have a second chance task to get their supplies. So it's a little bit like they have to do extra work to get their supplies, and there's a chance they might not get it.
Yes.
They did the same like second chance supplies task in season 41 and 42, but neither season did a team fail. So I really don't know going into this like what the consequences are if you fail. I guess you just don't get your stuff, and now you don't have, like, not having machete seems brutal. Like I don't even know how you would make a shelter.
I think he specifically said like you would get your stuff at the first actual official challenge then. Like,
yeah, I think you'd have to wait till the
immunity
immunity,
challenge,
which
yeah.
is usually like at least 2 days. I don't know if it's shorter because of the shortened schedule, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be real rough to make some sort of shelter.
Not having fire for the beginning of the game is very common, so people, I know there's a history of getting through that. But yeah, so there's a second chance supplies task where we'll talk about that once we get to somebody that was a main contributor to that.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be I guess they call these kind of like summits of some sort, where like one representative from each tribe will like go to another island, and then they're going to have their own little like mini game with each other that usually results in like they'll be like fighting over some sort of advantage in the game, like an extra vote or immunity idol.
Somebody gets swiped away for the afternoon.
Yes.
Which makes for awkward time where they don't get to, I don't know, strategize and find an alliance.
Even if nothing happens at this summit, like it creates like a potential rift in the tribe where like because once you get back, you basically have to explain what happened, and people will like believe you or not believe you, and it could cause like some drama in the tribe. So it's just like a show's attempt to add like a twist into the game while also creating some potential adversity for the tribes. And then we'll have our immunity challenge where one team will lose and go to tribal council.
And they'll lose their flint. So
yeah, that's a new thing. Yeah, that's rough. Especially if you're because it kind of like snowballs where like, okay, you lose the first challenge, you don't get your flint, then you can't make fire. Then it's like harder to eat the food you find and like drink your water. And then because of that, you do worse in the immunity challenges, and then it definitely could snowball out of control. I don't know if they had a terrible snowball out of control in the last 2 seasons that they did this, but I think this mechanic is part of trying to make it harder for the less days. I think is the reason they're doing this.
That makes sense.
For people, Sarah, like you, before you watched the last season, do you want to explain what a hidden immunity idol is? It's not the immunity necklace or the immunity like idol that the tribe gets for winning the immunity challenge. But there are things out there that can be found at the camps and can be won through different games called hidden immunity idols.
Yeah, they look different, I think, from season to season, so people don't necessarily always know what they're looking for. And basically, whenever anybody leaves camp by themselves, everybody assumes they're going to look for an idol. Yeah. And then if you find one, you store it in your underwear, because that's the only place you can imagine people won't find it, is what I remember from the last season. And then if you go to tribal council, you can play it, I think, right before they read the votes.
Yeah, after the votes are cast, but before they're read. Yeah.
And any votes that were cast for you don't count. And so then whoever is in second place is the person who gets bumped out instead of you. But it's a one-time use situation, and I think you can only use them like up to a certain point overall. Yeah. I don't know when that is.
It used to be Final 5. They might have made it Final 6. I always forget where it's at, but you can use them pretty far into the game, but you can't rely on them like to get you all the way to the end, essentially.
But here is where my one piece of Survivor strategy comes in.
Okay.
I would come in with especially modified underwear that had pockets in it for storing things in, because that seems to be where everyone stores their stuff, and it would make life easier.
I think you could do that. As long as you don't put things in the secret compartments, like they'll probably find that. But
yeah, I would just even go to production and be like, look, it's just pockets for storing things.
Yeah, I think they would allow it. Like, I think the way your outfit works on Survivor is like you might have to submit like 3 different outfits so that they can like once they decide what color tribe you're on, you have to like
they're all
wear
like
that color.
pseudo color coded.
Yeah, like kind of. They have to you have to choose like an outfit that's like kind of like the color of the tribe you're going to be on. But you don't know that when you submit your clothes to production, so you have to like submit 3 outfits and then once they know, they tell you which one you're going to wear basically. I think is what happens. So you'd have to make like 3 outfits that have like secret like pocket compartments so you can hide your idols or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think they would object to it, also, or like they wouldn't if there's nothing actually in the pocket. I don't think they would find it.
Yeah. But that's my big strategy. End of list.
There's like a history of like people trying to smuggle things in. I think somebody did something similar to what you're saying, but they actually like like smuggled something in through their clothes.
Yeah, I'm not trying to cheat. I'm just trying to make things comfy.
Yeah.
Wait,
I forget what it was.
Didn't you used to be able to like bring one thing? That was a thing.
That used to be a thing that like the show made a big deal about. It was called your like luxury item. And you would either like you would either like be allowed to bring it with you from the beginning, or like at some point in the game you could like win your luxury item, or they would just give it to you.
Okay. Not a thing anymore?
I don't think it's a thing anymore. If it is a thing, the show just like chooses not to put it in the show because like
it's no longer
after you've seen enough time, it's like no longer really interesting. Like let's get to the strategy of the show is what people want to watch. There are also some times like in the past where people kind of like hacked this, where like they were like, oh, my luxury item is a big ass American flag. And now I'm going to use it as a tarp so we have a good shelter. Like people were kind of like, I don't know why the show allowed that, but there were a few times.
Like,
I think someone
this
like
machete that has been handed down through my family is so meaningful to me. I need it.
Exactly.
This portable campfire. It means so much to me. My mom gave it to me.
Yeah, or even just like, I think some people would be like, oh, I want to like bring my journal. And so they would get like pen and paper. And then there was like, back in the day, there were challenges towards the end of the game, which would be like, you'd have to answer questions about like personal information about the jury members.
Oh, so you'd just be taking notes the whole time.
So like somebody hacked it and like they would ask people personal questions about themselves and they would actually like go write it down and then they would like study it. And it's like, it's not really fair that they had a writing utensil and paper to do this and nobody else did. Yeah. So I think they just got fed up after a while, and I think they eventually transitioned to like, you get to choose a luxury item, but we're not going to give it to you necessarily out there. And then like some seasons they would show it, some seasons they wouldn't, and then I can't even remember the last time that they had luxury items on this show.
Okay.
So yeah, the show has changed a lot. I think they've mostly made good decisions.
Okay.
So yeah, first challenge for your supplies, the second chance challenge for the teams that lose their supplies, the summit mini game, and then we're gonna have an immunity challenge and a tribal council. That's what we're gonna do. That's what the overall sequence of events is in the show. But now we are just going to talk about the contestants one by one, and
tribe by
whatever sparks our interest to talk about as we go is going to be talked about. That's how I'm going to do it.
Sounds good.
We're going to talk about everything anybody did up until the end of the immunity challenge, and then once we get to whichever tribe lost the immunity challenge, the rest of the episode is just only that tribe and how they're strategizing going to tribal council, and then eventually the tribal council. So we'll do more of a play-by-play breakdown once we get past the immunity challenge.
Sounds good.
All right, Sarah. Where are we starting?
I think we're starting with the Red Tribe.
Red Tribe. And we'll say their name once. I think this is the Vessi Tribe.
Yes, Vessi Tribe.
Besi. Doesn't really matter. It's the Red Tribe, but for completion's sake, we'll say the name once.
And first up is Cody. Cody is 35 and an elevator and escalator salesman.
Oh, okay. You're getting okay. We'll see. We'll see what he is.
Well, I mean, this
is incredible. Okay. Overall thoughts on Cody, though, Sarah. Before I say anything, thoughts on Cody.
This is a colorful character who is he's gonna be in as many episodes as he's in. I think he's gonna get a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cody,
he's an interesting guy.
Cody is a lot.
Yes.
I wrote down maybe too much energy this guy has.
Yes.
He even says, I think in one of his, he has like he gets one of the early confessionals during the like early montage, and he's like, he says, "Oh, I've already spent part of the $1 million prize that I'm gonna win."
Yes.
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say that before. That is, yeah. I hope he's a little bit like kidding about being overconfident here, but that's crazy if he actually did that.
He does say that he's gonna play hard just like he lives his life. So like
basic stuff here.
That's his whole vibe.
Okay. He's gonna say at some point that he binged watched Survivor during the pandemic.
So like a recent convert.
Yeah. So I would say he is not a seasoned Survivor fan. I don't know if he binge watched every season or what he did. He definitely watched the latest seasons, I want to say. I really don't think there's a lot of value as a strategist to go back and watch like, you know, the early days of Survivor.
Yeah, so much is different.
The most recent stuff is what's going to be most like the game you're about to play.
Right.
Like I don't even know if you really want to go back like before season 40, you know, like if you just watch 41, 42.
That's all you need to know right there.
In terms of like, okay, if you're gonna rewatch any season to prepare yourself to go out, like watch the most recent seasons. Now, if you've watched Survivor since 2000 and you've been thinking about strategies that you'd use for the last 22 years, you're going to be better off than the person that just binged it during the pandemic.
Oh, so, how mad are you going to be when Cody wins?
No,
this
I'm not going to be mad because he's not going to win. It's like, no, he's not. It's not going to happen.
I'm calling it now. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I do a lot of like, okay, this person's not going to win. This person's not going to win. And I'm probably a little too harsh with it. Like last season, I definitely eliminated somebody, but I eliminated that person just because they were like young, which it's not really like, okay, I'm not really saying 100% they're going to lose, because you can still win the game as a young person, but it is like one of the most massive disadvantages, I think. And we can get to a couple of young people that are going to be on this season and what we think of them. But it's not as much as me saying like right now, like Cody's not going to win the game, you know? It is so unlikely that he is going to have picked up enough skills binge watching in the last 2 years or whatever than all these other players, which have been like trying to get on the shows or wanting to be on the show since they were like 10 years old. You know, it's so unlikely that he is this good at picking up skills this quickly.
Do you think that he has an advantage because he's a salesman? That comes up in this
okay,
episode.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Let's say all this like goofy or bad or even bad stuff about Cody, and then I have one positive thing on him before the end of this.
Well, I thought he was gonna be a dummy, but then he does a really smart thing.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that's my one positive. Yeah. We'll say that first. Okay, so let's describe the first challenge, since we're about to talk about it.
Okay.
Do you want to describe the first challenge? I have like very like quick like these are the basic tests in the order that you had to do them.
Yeah, so everybody starts on the beach, and there's 2 people from every team who then have to go race down the beach and bring back 2 big heavy wooden crates. Then 2 other people have to run into the water and haul in a boat that has more crates on it. And then the last 2 people have to stack the crates into a cube, and then one of them has to get up on top and use like a bamboo pole to get a key, or is it
it's the flint? It's like the flint, yeah.
Yeah, the flint is like on a big key ring and on a slanted pole, and they have to like get it up off of that pole and down into the ground. And whoever does that first wins.
Yeah. And the cube, the crates into a cube is like, it's supposed to be like a puzzle. Like the crates are all different.
Right. They're different sizes and fit together in just one particular way that makes a big cube.
Yeah. So it's the puzzle portion of the challenge. Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't think I wrote down anything from this challenge other than that what Cody came up with, which was actually pretty smart.
He was not the person with the pole, but he told the person with the pole, hey, the bamboo is hollow, so like maneuver it so the flint is inside that hole and you're going to be able to get this off real easy. Yeah. And that was true. I think his team was, well, definitely not, they had not gotten up on top of the cube first. Like they were maybe even in last place, second or last place at this point, and then they were just able to win because he was like, hey, put it in the hole.
Yeah. This was impressive. Like it's usually there's like a hack to beat like a puzzle at a challenge or something. But this was like a hack to just like beat a physical aspect of the challenge, which was actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like the angle that they had this like key ring on this pole was like the most extreme angle I've ever seen them do on the show. Like every person that was up like trying to poke, like they were trying to like use friction to like drag the keychain all the way up the post.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know if this challenge was necessarily like beatable without figuring out this hack. It was actually pretty impressive that he figured it out. So yeah, kudos to Cody for figuring that out. But let's get to his when he tells everybody his profession.
Yes, he just says he works at an elevator and escalator company. He doesn't say what he specifically does there.
Yes. So this is like, it's not much of a lie, but he thinks this is like really important lie for him to say. And this is like a thing where like I feel like everybody's like, you know, they're the kind of like what we talked about in After Party, where it's like everybody's the hero of their own story, where like they think that them doing their job is like so cool and so intimidating that if they admit what their job is to somebody, that they're gonna like think all these things about them, and they're gonna think they're like really smart or really social or something. Like it's way overthinking. Like I cannot think of a single job that somebody could have where if they told me that job on Survivor, I would be like, oh wow, I gotta vote you out as fast as possible. Like nothing would intimidate me.
Oh, what if they told you they were a Survivor challenge designer? I mean, that's an advantage.
Even
right
that's
there.
not. It's just challenges, you know. Whatever. It is an advantage, but in like even I don't have to worry about it till like immunity challenges, and it doesn't really mean you like can do them just because you designed them. You know? Now there might be a trick to doing them, and maybe he knew the trick in the challenge, so who knows? But yeah,
there is something valid in his deciding to not say he's a salesman, because later he's talking to two other people on his tribe about a fourth tribe member, Justine, who is in sales and has said she's in sales. And the other two people he's talking to are like, oh yeah, sketchy. Can't, it's going to have a social advantage. Salespeople can talk you into anything. Like they're having that conversation. He's prompting it. Like he wants to bring it up to like make sure everybody's like wary about her and not about him. But
this is crazy. This is
but
nuts.
The other two people like also agree with him. Like it's not something he's made up entirely.
That may have been what they said, but that was not the vibe I got. I think the vibe I got was like, yeah, sure, you're right, Cody. Yeah, we got to watch out for salespeople for sure. Like they weren't like, they were just like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, which is what, like, if anybody ever has a conversation or like offers you a deal or an alliance or whatever, you just say, yeah, that makes sense. I'm in. Like that's just, you're not going to have a confrontation over whether or not salespeople can be trusted. Like it's not worth the argument. But not only is he a salesperson who thinks he shouldn't tell people he's a salesperson, but he's going out of his way to make people think that they should be wary of salespeople. Like this is insane. Like the more traditional version of this is like for some reason, like being a cop became like a thing on the show, and like all cops were like, oh, I can't tell people I'm a cop or they're gonna think like I'm a good at telling people if people are lying or something. But none of those cops ever went on the show, told people they weren't a cop, and then brought up the fact that we should be wary of people being cops. Like this is way too like insane.
I mean, Cody's just next level like that. I don't know what you expected.
This lie is just not worth it. Like, I'll get just a couple of lies that happen later that I think actually have some merit to them. But this lie is like, okay, at some point in the game, like, you will be hungry, you will be emotional, you will want to confide in somebody where you might just admit that you lied about your profession. Yeah. And, like, why does this need to be a burden on you throughout this, like, super difficult game that you're, like, yeah. If somebody you were on Survivor, even though you don't want to be there, right? Just so you're there day one. Yeah. Somebody says, I'm an elevator and escalator salesman. Are you going to have any, why would you have any reaction to that?
I mean, my reaction would be like, okay.
I would just be like, oh, that's a weird thing to be selling.
Like, that is also the thing. Like, I'm picturing somebody going door to door being like, do you need any elevators? I got you covered.
Yeah. I'm sure that's not what it is, but yeah, it does kind of sound like that. Yeah. So yeah, I would think like, oh, it's a weird thing to sell, but it's not. I would not be thinking, wow, salesman. Now, maybe if somebody was like, oh, I'm a used car salesman, like that's the only thing. Like maybe like that has enough stigma to it that it could mean something. But yeah, I don't get this. I like this. It gets to the point of ridiculousness. Like, okay, so like on Big Brother this last season, Sarah, somebody was their job was like they were a therapeutic like hypnotist.
Oh,
that's like an amazing, awesome, cool job. But they thought that job was so intimidating that they just told people they were a teacher. Like, why? Like,
well, they don't want people to think that they're gonna hypnotize
I
them.
guess so, but like, come on. It's like such an interesting job, and now you just like don't get to talk about it, and like, I don't know. It seems weird to me, but yeah. I don't think this is worth it. Not if I'm giving people advice going on Survivor, just tell people what you are. Unless you're like, maybe if you're like a pimp or like a human trafficker, maybe don't mention that. But
I feel like if you are
you shouldn't get on the show.
Profession, you shouldn't go on.
You shouldn't get on the show. But that's I'm just trying to be ridiculous. Like these are the types of things that you shouldn't tell people.
Yeah. If it's a profession you need to hide on Survivor, you should reconsider your profession, I think is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But aside from all that, Cody has one other feature.
Yes, this is great.
He has a tattoo on his ass that says "Livin'," no G, exclamation points, and a smiley face.
This is the freaking title of the episode.
Yep. Straight from his ass.
This was so funny how they did this too, because like I think it's Jesse on his tribe that we're gonna get to later. Like he has like cooler tattoos on himself, so people were asking about his tattoo. But then he apparently had talked to Cody earlier about Cody's tattoo, so he was like, "Oh, Cody's got the way better tattoo than I do, though." And then he's like,
Cody just like brings it out,
and somebody else was like, "Oh, really? Let me see it." And then he just like pulls his pants down. And then he doesn't even like show it to her long enough for her to see it. He's like, "What does it say?" He's like, "Livin', Livin, 2 exclamation points with a smiley face." And then the show puts like a graphic on the screen as he's spelling out the word "livin" of the word Livin, 2 exclamation points, and then with a smiley face underneath. Like I've never seen the show do like this quirky thing with the graphic before. It was so weird.
But it was kind of great. I imagine that he looked at Jesse, saw he had tattoos, and went, "Hey, I have a tattoo too," and like immediately just like pulled it out.
Yeah, that is probably what happened. So that's Cody. Cody's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a quote unquote super fan because he's watched a bunch of seasons, but he's not the same kind of super fan as these people that have thought about this for longer.
I see you gatekeeping. Yeah, I see.
Get out. Get out from my island. Exactly. But he's way more entertaining than I probably could prove to production that I would be. Like there's a reason he's out there and I'm not out there.
Yeah.
All right. Next person.
Next up, we have Dwight.
I've never heard somebody named Dwight ever since like The Office came out. Like I don't think I know a Dwight. This is actually pretty incredible.
Okay. Well, this Dwight is 22 and a grad student, and he told everybody he's gonna graduate like once he comes back from Survivor, it's like time for his graduation or something. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. He must be like pretty wrapped up, and he's just like chilling. He's like, I'll just go on Survivor. He must have the deal work out with like his school or whatever. That he's like, hey, I got on Survivor. Yeah. Like, what can we do?
Yeah.
There has been somebody that was like they were missing their high school graduation to be on Survivor or something. Like that's how young they were.
Yeah.
The note I have on Dwight, the first thing I wrote down about Dwight is he wearing some sort of like red Power Rangers pants? Like what? This guy's pants are incredible.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They look like, I don't know, like children's pajamas, or I don't know what they are.
It looks comfy though.
Yeah, maybe this is like the only red piece of clothing he had, or he submitted like every Power Ranger color that they wanted him to. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he's got these same pants in all the different colors.
Yeah. I like them.
Ready to be
They're
on
good.
any team.
It's good pants.
My note on him is he's very bad at macheting.
Oh yeah, his whole tribe, this whole red tribe is not going to be the. They don't really have like the construction person that knows how to build a shelter.
Yeah,
so they struggle with that a little bit.
and like even though
they get the machete
won the
first,
first challenge, and like they theoretically have advantage in shelter building time, they don't necessarily spend it that well.
Yeah,
not that good at it.
And then the big thing of note for Dwight is that he is going to be selected by his tribe to go to the summit.
Yeah, he gets to go on the boat.
We can talk about the summit right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so the summit this season this is a thing they've done in the last 2 seasons. They've definitely done variations of this, like more than the last 2 seasons. But what they're about to do is very similar to the last 2 seasons, but then not quite the same.
Yeah, it's like get 3 people together, send them on a hike, and then let them gamble their vote at the end of it, basically.
Yes, yeah, that's what it is. So it's one person from each tribe has been selected. Dwight is the one member from Red. Mm-hmm. And they're going to go to a separate island. And the trek this time, instead of being a hill, is like they have to like wade through like shoulder high ocean water to get to this like giant rock that's like kind of its own mini island off of the coast.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of slippery moss covered rocks that they're going over. Yeah. It is a bit more dangerous than previous treks.
It didn't look that bad.
Well, the water was moving kind of not super fast, but faster than you'd like.
If you're not comfortable in water, I bet it's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're shorter, it's probably harder too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They made it the last 2 seasons when they had to like climb to the top of the hill or the mountain. They made that seem like it was a lot more exhausting.
Oh yeah, but that's like just an endurance thing. Like this is you could slip and fall thing. You know, it's a bit more perilous, I'd say.
But the idea is like it kind of you can spend the time on the walk to like get to know each other. And so it kind of creates a dynamic between people, or like a potential relationship between people that aren't on the same tribe.
Mm-hmm. But I think like this water trek is maybe you have to focus too hard on it.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily get to have that bonding time.
Yeah, I don't think there was as much talking in this version as there were in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Whereas like last 2 seasons, they would get talked the entire way, and then by the top of the hill, when they would like film them, they would be like kind of like making deals with each other and like future alliances that didn't necessarily mean anything, but at least they were trying.
Yeah. Whereas at the end of this, it seemed like they were just like, later, whatever.
They were just like, oh, we made it. We survived the water. Thank God. And then they just went right to the activity.
Yeah.
All right. So when they get to this giant rock mini island, there's a table set up. And each of them is basically going to get 2 cards. One of the cards says, risk a vote, risk my vote, or whatever. And then one says, don't risk my vote.
Everyone gets to secretly pick if they're going to risk or not risk. So you don't know what everybody else is.
They're risking their vote at the first tribal council they go to.
Yeah. So if they don't go to this one, it'll be whichever one is the first one. So they might lose their vote, and then like 4 or 5 episodes from now, suddenly it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're going to lose if they lose their vote, they'll get their vote back once they survive one tribal council.
Yes.
Is another way to look at it. But the dilemma is that if you choose to risk your vote, then I don't know. What's the best way to explain this? It's a little confusing.
You have a chance to get an advantage.
Yes, that's what you're playing for. That's the reason to risk your vote, is you might eventually get advantage in the game.
And they have 3 bags set up. One for if only one person risks their vote, a second one for if 2 people, and then a third for 3. So in the bag of 1, there's just an advantage in there. In the bag for 2, there's an advantage and a you lost your vote token. And then in the third one, there's 2 you lost your vote ones and then the advantage. So whoever decides to risk their vote ends up picking from the appropriate bag based on the number of people who risked.
Yes. Perfectly explained. Still probably confusing, but you explained it exactly as the show did. So basically what happens is you have to decide, is my vote valuable enough that I don't want to lose it, or can I risk my vote and get an advantage? And really, the ultimate heist here is if like you can somehow convince the other 2 people not to risk their vote, and then you're the only one that risks it, and then you automatically just win the advantage and don't lose your vote. That's like the ultimate heist. Which is what
one of the people here tried to do, and it did not succeed.
Yeah. So we're talking about Dwight. Out of the 3 people, 2 people are going to risk their vote, and 1 person is not. And Dwight is one of the people that did risk his vote.
Yes. And they weren't allowed to see, like, they picked their tokens right then, but it, like, opens up, and they weren't allowed to open it up until they got back to camp.
Yes. And Dwight gets back to camp, and he lost his vote.
Yes. But he does tell everyone in his tribe exactly what happened.
Did we get them telling the tribe that he lost his vote? Did he tell the tribe that? I think he did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He did go away to look at it in secret, but then came back and told everyone he lost it.
I think the show forced them to look at it in secret, but then basically everybody that went to the summit is going to tell the truth 100% to their tribe. The show gives them a chance to lie about it, since the rest of the cast doesn't see what they did on this island.
Right.
But they're basically going to tell the truth. And because this is very similar to what happened in the last 2 seasons, and everybody on this season has seen the last 2 seasons, there's no real reason to believe that they're lying. Like, it's close enough to what actually happened.
Right.
And the reason you really don't lie about this is because probably in the next episode or at some point, like, they're going to do this game multiple times. So multiple people, like, nobody can do it twice, but they're going to send multiple individuals from each tribe to go have this summit and play a similar game.
Yeah. So at the very least, that person will know you lied.
Yeah. Once 2 people go from your tribe, they're going to be able to say, hey, you didn't tell the truth about this. Now you could say, like, hey, it was different when I went. I don't know what you're talking about. But in the last 2 seasons, it was pretty much the same thing for everybody. Yeah. So it would be hard to believe at that point.
Definitely.
Now, the lie you could tell is, like, if you did risk your vote, you could just be like, I didn't risk my vote. And then there'd be no way for them to prove that you didn't. That's the only way you could lie.
If you did, like, whatever you get out of this little tab or token thing, you have to hide. Otherwise, they will see the paper that says, "Oh, you lost your vote," or
yeah, it's the same thing as having a
secret advantage,
or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I've been a pro risk your vote person up until recently. I think I've become a don't risk your vote person, especially. So we're gonna get to when we get through this entire show. I'm gonna explain my big crazy plan for a first vote with 6 people. And you very much need your vote for this plan to work. So if I had any, like, idea that, okay, I can pull off this plan that I've planned for like for years before I got on the show, I would not be risking my vote out here because the thing is, you don't even know what the advantage is. I think in the last season they like told you, like, oh, you'll get an extra vote.
Yes. Whereas this one, they were just like, some advantage.
Now, it could have been incredible and it could have been nothing, but we'll get to that when we get to the person that won. But yeah, that's all I have for Dwight.
Yep, that's about it.
Who's next, Sarah?
Next is Jesse, who is a 30-year-old political science PhD, which sounds like a degree and not a job. So I don't know what he actually does, but I like this guy.
I do too. I wrote down, first thing I wrote, I like Jesse. That's literally what I wrote. Yes, he has a good confessional that I liked, which mirrors kind of like the mindset that I would have if I was out there at this stage in the game.
Is it the one about everybody, when they get back to camp, they start, like, doing the thing you do where you go talk with somebody and, like, try to become an alliance or whatever, and he has, like, 2 different groups of people who are, like, going after him and being like, yes, alliance, and he's just like, I don't have any friends at home, and now I'm, like, getting invited to 2 different parties, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
It's just low-key adorable.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought he was, like, a little more confident than that, although he did say what you said, yeah. Oh, wait, no, you're not, that wasn't Jesse, I don't think. I think that was Carla.
That was totally Jesse.
Well, Carla has something very similar.
Oh, yeah, Carla does similarly not believe she's gonna get anybody.
Okay, we'll get to Carla later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jesse is going to be part of this conversation that Cody initiates. Cody pulls 2 people aside to talk about this whole we can't trust salesman thing. Like, we can't trust Justine on the tribe because she's a salesperson. Yeah. And Jesse's going to be part of this conversation. And then I think shortly after that, he has a confessional where he's like, wow, it's great to be, like, being pulled in, like you said. Like, he seems to be in the middle of the tribe, which is, of course, like, the best spot to be. But he's not very, like, he's in his confessional, he's saying, like, oh, he's not committing to anything, like, too early.
Yeah.
And he's not saying that to people. He's telling everybody, yeah, I'm with you, which is what you need to do. But in his head, in the confessionals that we're getting, he's saying, you know, like, I haven't actually picked which side I want to be on. Which means like it shows a level of like flexibility in his gameplay that I like. Like he's not thinking like, oh, there's only one path to victory. There's like, whatever happens later, I'll decide later. Like if you're not going to tribal council yet, why be all in on any side? Which seems simple, but so many people don't do it. So
yeah,
I like that Jesse was vocalizing that.
Yeah, I agree. He seems super reasonable, and yeah, like I said, low key adorable.
But then later, we're gonna get Jesse's backstory.
Yes, when they're talking about tattoos, because he talks about some tattoos that he had removed that he had gotten when he was like a teenager, basically, because he had been in a gang as a kid, and then when he was in juvie, they did like a GED test, and he did really well, and that helped him think like, oh, well, I could do something else with my life, and that's when he, you know, turned everything around, and he, you know, got his big fancy political science PhD, and he seems real happy with his life now. It's nice.
Yeah, I think pretty impressive story. You know,
yeah,
it sounds like he came a very long way.
Yeah, and he said he doesn't like necessarily like talking about it, but felt it was important for like a representation point of view, so that way, like, if there are any kids who are in situations like he was in, like, they could see like, oh yeah, life could change and it could get better, and I think that's real nice.
Yeah, this is the approach. Like, I don't think you should really be hiding anything out there. Yeah, I wrote down I'm rooting for Jesse. I'm not like necessarily like, okay, he's my favorite, or like I'm rooting for him to win the show or anything, but in the early stages of the game, he's somebody I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and we'll get to another person later, like sometimes when the show kind of sets you up, like, oh, I think I'm the middle person in the tribe, it's like setting you up for a downfall, or like, oh, you thought you were the swing vote, but you're actually like at the bottom of like the tribe.
Yeah,
like,
you're the most
like you're basically being like hoodwinked, but the show is setting it up. I didn't get the sense that was the case here, though, because sometimes based on like the music that the show is playing along with your confessional, you can like get an idea of like what the show is trying to say to you. This felt genuine. I think Jesse is in a good spot right now.
Cool.
All right. Next is Justine.
She is 29 and a software salesperson.
Oh, those salespeople. I don't watch out for them. I don't trust this girl at all.
I don't have a lot of notes on her, except that she gets close with Noelle, and at one point her tribe is struggling with fire because they're struggling with all the sort of shelter aspects, and she finally gets it going.
Yes. She was her story in the first episode was she was like the person that really like dug down deep and was like very determined to make fire, and then she eventually succeeds after supposedly struggling for a long time. There's usually at least one person that has this kind of story in the beginning. I think this can be a good edit, like in terms of like being able to make fire as somebody that like wasn't a good confident fire maker is like and if they highlight that in the show, like it can be good for your like it's an indicator that you might make it further in the game, I would say.
Interesting. Okay.
Not necessarily like, oh, you're gonna win, but now she clearly like wasn't. Maybe she practiced a little bit making fire before she got out there, but she clearly wasn't like, she hasn't mastered it.
That's something I don't understand. If you're going on Survivor,
yeah,
you got to practice making fire until it is like second nature. I don't understand these unprepared people.
For people that haven't watched Survivor in a while, they made a rule change, I don't know, a handful of seasons ago, maybe like 10 seasons ago at this point, I don't know. They made a rule change at some point, so all the finals now, like way back in the day, they used to do final 2s. Now they do final 3s. So the jury is picking amongst 3 people. Okay. And then they changed the rules again, where at the final 4, they no longer do a vote out to see who makes they don't do a normal tribal council anymore. The person who wins the final 4 immunity challenge gets to choose 2 people to go head to head in a fire making challenge, with the loser being the last person to be voted out of the tribe. Voted out in quotes. So
you should definitely be very good at making fire.
You are so incentivized now to practice making fire with flint until you are like sure that you're the best one at it. Like no matter what, you're going to be the best. Now, of course, you know, if everybody's the best at it, obviously you can't be the best at it necessarily. Everybody can't be the best at it, but it is such a handicap to put yourself in to not at least be able to like quickly get a fire started and then hopefully like it burns the way better than the other one person's burns. But getting a fire started like needs to be a skill that you can do with flint. And in addition to that, I'm sure she's not thinking about this because she's not a great fire maker. If you can make fire with flint, you probably don't want to ever make fire with flint until you get to the final four. Like you do not
hide that you're good at it.
You do not want to advertise that this is a skill that you have, because because then people are going to be scared to let you get to the final four because they know like if they let you get there, there's no chance they can get rid of you because you're going to win the challenge. So I think like the meta of fire making, like maybe they just don't highlight in the show, but I feel like it's not really at the forefront as much as it should be, because people are like, many people, especially at this point, like they're just like, I don't want to be the first person voted out, and I'm hungry, like the very basic thoughts. But if you go into the game with mentality that I'm going to be really good at fire making and then I'm never going to do it until the final four, I feel like that's the ultimate strategy for how to be a fire maker.
Well, they probably would have highlighted it if this was what was happening, but maybe everybody else in the tribe was like, yeah, I'm not going to do well at making the fire because I'm hiding it for later. And then she was the only person to actually give up and make fire.
That's possible, yeah.
But then you'd probably have somebody in a confessional being like, yeah, I'm good at that. I wasn't going to show anybody. So that's probably not what happened.
I don't know if I've ever seen that confessional. Maybe it's something the show doesn't want to put in the show. I don't know. Or I don't. Yeah, you would have to think somebody must have said that at some point. But I can't say I remember it.
Interesting.
We'll get to somebody else later who also is going to make fire. Now, the one reason that you might want to make fire is that if legitimately like nobody on your tribe could possibly get the fire started,
then you're a useful person they won't want to get rid of.
Yeah, you're the only one. They literally might not vote you out of the game because they think they're gonna like die if you're not on the tribe anymore. It's possible. Now, most people are, especially with the shortened game, 26 days, like you're going out there with mentality that it's like it's going to suck. And hopefully you don't have to think about stuff like that in terms of like who you vote out. You can just vote people out for social strategic reasons and not have to worry about this like physical stuff. But yeah, that's the only case that where maybe it could work for you if people are just scared that they need you to live. Like that. That's legitimate, I guess. All right, next person.
It's Nika. Neka. I don't remember.
Yeah, I made a note of it when I rewatched it. I forgot. I forgot how she pronounced it.
I think it's Nika.
Yeah.
She's 43. She's a pharmacist, and she grew up in Nigeria. And that is the end of my notes. I feel like they did not highlight her at all in this episode.
Yeah, that's all I wrote too. I think she actually she was the third person in the conversation with Cody where he was throwing sales people under the bus. Okay. So he was part of that potential like 3-person alliance. She was part of that potential 3-person alliance with Cody, Jesse, and Nika. And then I think she had a confessional. We're going to get late. I think it's on the next 2 tribes. The next 2 tribes are going to have talks about a women's alliance. And we don't get the women's alliance talk on this tribe.
Right.
And I think Nika has actually, I think it's in a confessional with her saying like, oh, she feels like she actually works more with men and can get along with men easier. So Nika is like, potentially the one person or woman in the game who like might have been against a women's alliance or wasn't even like willing to entertain it. I'm not sure. The talk of a women's alliance is just something that comes up on every season of Survivor.
Makes sense.
For reasons we can get into maybe later. But yeah. But so far, she's from Nigeria, and we can say like this tribe does not go to tribal council, which is why we might have less notes on them than some other people.
Yeah, we'll find out more about her later.
I'm looking forward to getting to know Nika more, but this episode she did not get a lot. And the last person on the red tribe, Sarah.
The last person is Noelle, who is a 25-year-old Paralympian because she actually lost her leg like above the knee in a moped accident when she was, I think, 19.
Yeah.
But she is the U.S. record holder for the 100 meter in the Paralympics.
That's pretty legit. Like the 100 meter is like basically, now I don't know what events they have in Paralympics versus the Olympics, but like the 100 meter is like, okay, who's the fastest person in the world is like, that's what you do.
Yeah. So
now this is the U.S. record, but like she's like the fastest paraplegic in the United States. Like that's pretty intense if that's the case.
Seems pretty fast. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems
a crazy story
to me, as a person who, does not have to face these issues, it seems like it'd be real hard to get around on sand with, her artificial leg, but she seems fine. Like, she knows what she's doing. It did not come up at all as an hindrance, and yeah, she's just out here doing Survivor.
Yeah, I think she did the swimming in the first challenge, and then she got through all the different obstacles in the community challenge when we get to it, so it didn't seem to be a problem. They've had amputees on Survivor before, leg amputees. I think this is like the most intense amputee though that they've ever had. I don't know if they've had an above the knee on American Survivor before. I know people. I remember people having like the attachment in like the foot area. But yeah, I don't know about above the knee. I think this is like the most intense amputee I've ever seen on the show. She actually like applied to the show before her accident, and then years later she got on the show. Now I don't know if she got like really far in the interview process,
first application, and then
like without when she had both her legs. I don't know like how deep she made it into the process, but because it's been 6 years since her accident, so she could have like had kind of like a half-assed application. Like I've done that when I was younger, where I didn't really like sell myself very well. And then later she made, like when she was older, she made a more legit application, and she has such an amazing story that, as long as she has the personality to go with it, like she's like a shoo-in for the show.
Right.
But yeah, I don't have any like amazing game notes on her either. I think a lot of the this Red Tribe got the least game talk, I would say, out of all the tribes.
And I feel like of all the people in the team, like Cody took up the most.
Yeah, Cody really hogged the camera for this tribe. Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll get more information on these guys in future episodes, probably.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Red Tribe. The Red Tribe did not have to do the second chance.
Yes.
Task because they won the first challenge. So now we're going to move to the Blue Tribe. And they did have to do the second chance challenge.
Yes, and their name is Coco.
Who's first on the Blue Tribe?
First is Cassidy, who is a 26-year-old designer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Under every woman's name in this tribe, I wrote Women's Alliance. Just like they talked about a Women's Alliance.
They did.
They got in the show for talking about it. I think we can just spoil right now. Like, okay, this tribe also does not go to tribal council, so we're saving the team that goes to tribal council for the end. So again, we might get a little less from this tribe compared to the others.
Right.
So we do not get this. I think they talk about the Women's Alliance in the show in this tribe, but we don't get to see if it actually holds strong.
Right.
For the vote, because they don't actually go to tribal council.
She does say in a confessional or something that she's gonna be the kind of player who tries to stay behind the scenes. And I don't know, is that a successful strategy?
Now that is good. I wrote this down too. That's a good strategy. I mean, you don't really, what it is like you don't want to give people a reason to vote you out, so you don't want to be like loud and obnoxious and potentially offend people, or basic like just be a polite person kind of stuff. But she actually says in her confessional, when she talked about this, she says she doesn't want to play a loud, in-your-face game because women can't get away with that like men can. And that is the reason that she gives for why she's playing a behind-the-scenes game. I don't know if that's the best reason to be doing it. Like, if she's saying like, oh, if I was a guy, I would be like, I'd play this game really different. Like, I don't think that's like necessarily the right mentality to have.
Do you think it's inaccurate?
I think there is like, it's not totally unfair. I think there is like, if you look throughout the history of Survivor, there is something about like, oh, if a woman tries to play aggressively, it becomes like more, it like hurts people in a different way than like, oh, if a guy lies to them or like goes back on their word, it's like somehow different.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
But does that still apply in season 43 of Survivor? I'm not sure. Like it could be a little bit of like, she's a super fan of the show and she's like using data. She's like putting too much emphasis on data that is like far in the past. I think there is a little bit of that.
I would say this is probably not solely based on Survivor data. It is true as a woman in the world, where if you are aggressive in the way a man is aggressive in a certain situation, he'll be considered boss material and you'll be considered like a bitch or something. So like that's still a thing in the world. So I think it's fair for, even if maybe Survivor is evolved over time, like there are still these forces in the world that make shit shitty.
Yeah. I don't know if that's like, is it too much to project all that onto these strangers you don't know and assume that that's how they're going to be, and potentially like diminish any potential gameplay that you might have done otherwise because of it? I don't know about that. This is also coming off of last season, which had a woman winner who you could say, you know, maybe she played a little bit of a backseat game, but then
yeah, I'd say she played a quiet
in
game.
The end, she was very upfront about what her strategy was. She argued very well what her strategy was, and she was not apologetic about voting anybody out of the game, and they voted for her to win the game. Now, maybe that's what Cassidy is going for here. Like she's saying, okay, I'm going to lay low until I get to that point. Maybe she is trying to mimic the Marianne strategy to some degree. And that's perfectly valid. I hope that she doesn't have like some big plans that she thinks are good strategies, but she's not going to do them because she's a woman. Like that's what I hope is the case.
Yeah, hard to tell from this point though.
It's hard to tell, but it's not a totally unfair thing. I don't like people. It's like we can get to this with a couple other people later that are going to come up, but like it's one thing to be aware of the disadvantages that you might have for whatever demographic you are coming into the game, but it's another thing to like assume that this is 100% going to affect you and like revolve your entire game strategy around it. I just don't want it to like, I don't think people should like stifle their gameplay necessarily because they just assume that this thing is going to happen. It's definitely important to be aware of, but yeah. No, this is just one sentence that she said in all the time of the confessionals she said. So she might have clarified this and said a lot of really smart things to go along this, and we're just overanalyzing this one little bit she said.
But that's what we're here for.
But yeah, that's all you can do with they have a certain amount of time to show us, and this is what made it in.
Yeah, but I would say I agree that it's a bummer that anybody would feel they'd have to alter their strategy based on like the person they are, but like I totally understand it because they're coming in from like the real world where they have to alter their ththings they do based on who they are and how people are going to treat them based on their demographics or whatever, you know. So it sucks, but it makes sense.
Yeah. And because the real terrible feeling, like you go out and do this amazing experience, right? And if you say you play like a low key, like you're on your back foot kind of game, and then it doesn't work out and you get voted out, I feel like you're gonna have so many regrets about like, oh, I could have done all these other things, but I was just scared that if I did them, it would like work, it would like kill my game. But then you like lose anyway, and then it's like now you just have nothing but regrets. Whereas if you do all these big, like not big plans, or like you're not, you know, like you just do what you think is good gameplay, and hopefully it will be rewarded in the end if people think like you do. And now she did have a confessional talking about the fact that she is a woman and what that means during the game, so it could be an indicator that she is a little more committed to this women's alliance than just the fact that this is a confessional and not just a conversation that we're seeing in the show. So she might be more committed to this women's alliance, potentially. We'll have to see in future episodes. Okay, who's next?
Next is Gio, who is a 36-year-old project manager. And one of my notes here is only really gets highlighted when he's losing.
Okay.
Because like in the first challenge, he was one of the runners to go bring back a box, and he's like coming back with a box that just like it's too big for him, but he can't. He's just like pushing it in the sand and having a real tough time.
Yeah, he was like rolling it while everybody else was able to carry it. He feels bad about this. I don't think it's like it was a super big deal. Ultimately, like the trick that Cody figured out to like put the pole like around the flint is what won the challenge for whatever team. So the fact that he was slower here wasn't why they lost the challenge, but he does feel guilty about it.
And it does come up when they go back to their camp and they're doing their secondary chance challenge. And I guess we have to explain the two different choices.
Let's explain the second chance challenge now that we got to somebody who did it. So what happens, they roll up to their beach for the first time, and then they have to go immediately to this station, which has this the rules for this challenge on it. And they have two choices. The two choices are savvy or sweat. This is kind of like Amazing Race style, like if you're familiar with that, it's kind of like a roadblock almost. Or
okay.
I forget, roadblock or detour. I think it's detour, where you have to you like two options and you have to choose one, and you only have to complete one of them. And so it's just like that. Side note for people: The Amazing Race is also starting another season that comes right on TV right after Survivor.
Oh.
I don't know if it's how recently they've been doing that, but for this cycle, they got them synced up, so they're on this at the same time. Not as deep of a strategy show, but I think it's still a really fun show just to watch and have a good time. So I enjoy The Amazing Race.
Okay.
So the two choices here are savvy or sweat. Do you want to explain both, or do you just want to explain which one the Blue Tribe did, and then we'll explain?
We'll just explain both.
We'll explain both. Okay, we're gonna have to re-explain it later, but that's fine.
Well, we'll just come back to it.
Okay.
Basically, you can solve a brain teaser, but you only have one chance to answer. And if you get it wrong, then you don't get your stuff. Or you can have two people try to dig up your supplies because they're buried nearby, and I think they have a roped off square that's I don't know, how big would you say that is? It's a decent decently
decent.
large, but not
20
like
by 20, 30 by 30, I don't know, something like that. It looked like a lot.
It's just a bunch of sand, and I think they have little like hollowed out bamboo pseudo shovels.
They give them like a little bit of a tool.
Yeah, it's not super great, but it's something. And so at this point, the blue team is just trying to decide between these things. And the people who dig up the supplies, you can only have two people do it, and they are separated from the rest of the team, and they have 4 hours to dig up these supplies.
So savvy is the brain teaser, and sweat is the digging. But the brain teaser is allowed, the entire tribe is allowed to work on the brain teaser, but only 2 people are allowed to dig in the area, which is, like, if you had 6 people, it would be easy, but only 2 people makes it seem like it would be hard,
And so Gio feels so bad about having messed up in the previous challenge that he's like, well, if we do the dig one, like, I'll do the dig one. I'll do it.
I think there was one other person in the tribe that said they wanted to do the dig, and then Gio felt bad about the challenge, so he agreed to do it too. So if you can get 2 people to do the dig, you can let 2 people do the dig. But a lot of people aren't going to want to do the dig because it like isolates you away from the tribe for the very beginning of the game.
And it isolates you, and it's like physically
and
exhausting.
It's hard. Yeah. You have enough energy in the beginning of the game too.
Well,
you're not totally gassed, but you want to.
But still, like, they need to get these supplies and then build a shelter after this. Like, it's a whole bummer.
Yeah.
But that's what the blue team does.
Yeah, and as soon as they read the rules, they have to immediately flip over an hourglass, and the hourglass is 4 hours.
The 4 hours.
So so they're debating whether which detour to do is like part of the time trial for the challenge.
Yeah, because similarly, you get those 4 hours to solve the brain teaser if you need it as well. But in theory,
it's the same amount of time for both challenges. Now it does seem like this is a lot of time. Like, what's going to happen is, again, just like in 41 and 42, both tribes are going to succeed in getting their supplies.
Yes.
Now, the brain teaser is like, to think about the brain teaser, maybe I'll wait till later. No, whatever. I'll tell you. To think about the brain teaser for 4 hours is seems like excessive. If you've spent like, maybe you're going to have a eureka moment, but at some point I feel like you're just going to be like, I don't get this. I don't know what to do. But the sweat one, like 4 hours does seem like a lot of time. Like, unless they buried the supplies like so deep in there that you have to go like crazy far down, like you should be able to do it in 4 hours. It's just whether or not like 2 people are willing to do it.
Yeah, it's basically the sweat one seems more guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's just a lot more work, and people aren't going to want to do it.
Which one would you want to do, Sarah?
I mean,
what's the ideal outcome for you? Like, you don't necessarily have to be the digger, but do you want your tribe 2 people to volunteer and dig?
Well, that just seems like 2 people are going to be real tired for no good reason, and I like to solve puzzles.
That's partially what I'm thinking too. Yeah, like I kind of just want to do the puzzle.
I just want to do a puzzle.
Yeah, I think if you really care about like, oh, we need these supplies, like you're that kind of person. I feel like if you can get 2 people that aren't you to agree to do the dig, then that's probably the best scenario.
Unless they're like also the people who are going to be good at building your shelter and then they're too tired to build your shelter, like that's
I don't
an
think you can really
aspect
get
of it.
started in the shelter unless you get the machete.
Well,
Like,
exactly. But like
oh,
by
you
the
think
time
they're just
that
gonna be
they
too
dig
tired?
everything up, they're just going to be real
Oh,
tired.
you're so nice,
and
Sarah.
then...
You're like worried about the two people that had to use their energy. Like that is not what I'm thinking.
I'm worried.
I'm just
No. I'm worried about using their energy optimally.
Yeah.
I want them to use it so I don't get wet when it rains and I don't have to sleep on the ground.
All right. You're way nicer with how you're thinking about this.
If that's what you want to call it.
I would just go up here. I would say, you'd be like, you just say, hey, I want us to do the puzzle. And then hopefully 2 people volunteer to do the dig. And then you can just be like, okay, if you guys want to do it, that's fine.
I feel like here I would not say anything. I just let other people decide because I don't want to be the reason we did the puzzle and then fuck up the puzzle. Like I don't want to take any responsibility at this point.
You should at least say like, I'm thinking, like you can be like hesitant if you don't want to be like, the decider of the group, but I would at least give an opinion. Like you don't want to act like you're not interested or something like that. But I think we're on the same page. It'd be fun to do the puzzle.
Yeah. I
okay.
like doing puzzles.
But we're not going to talk about the puzzle yet, Sarah, because the
Okay.
blue tribe chose sweat and they're going to dig.
Yes. And it was Gio and Ryan, who we haven't
We'll get to
talked
Ryan.
about yet.
Ryan, I think Ryan's the big star when it comes to this digging.
Yeah, so we can get back into it then.
Yeah, we'll get back into it then. But Gio does agree to dig because he feels bad about his performance in the challenge, which is admirable. He's trying to make up for something that he thinks was bad.
Yeah. But I'd say the other big thing I have in my notes about Gio is that he was vibing with fellow tribe member Carla because they are both married gay Latinos. And
yes.
you know me, I love a queer character. Well, they're not characters in this case, queer people to root for. So yeah. I'm all about Gio and Carla.
Yeah, they had a very nice moment on the show where they got to talk about their experiences as gay people. Mm-hmm. And Gio, I would say, out of we get like both of their backstories they tell to each other. I would say Gio is the worst of the 2 backstories with his struggles with it because they're both going to be married, but Gio's husband's family, at least his husband's family, is very accepting. He said, but like his family is like the problem of the situation. Like he doesn't even think that he can ever introduce his husband to his family. Like that's how bad that they would react.
So sad.
Yeah. So that was very sad, but it was good to see Gio and Carla get to talk about it on the show. Mm-hmm. Survivor likes to put these kind of like important, I don't know if like it's like a hot button issue, but like I would say important topics too. This is why you have diversity on the show. Like this is Survivor is trying to at least do a little bit of good by putting this into the mainstream media.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. Good job, Survivor.
Yes, but yeah, that's all we get from Gio. Yep. I think at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Not going to go to tribal. No big alliance talk. Other than it seemed like he would be good with Carla. Yeah,
definitely.
Who's next?
Well, next we have James from Philly. I didn't know you were in this season, James.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. I like at some point in my life, like Sarah and I live, near Philly, right? Yeah, we'll say that. I used to live closer to Philly than I do now, and I was a sports fan. Like I'm not close enough with the city and like that I really should say like, oh, I'm from Philadelphia. I'm like not that kind of person. But there's like back in the day when like one of the most infamous survivors of all time is like Boston Rob. I don't know if you're familiar with that. You're familiar with Boston Rob, yeah. That was like such a cool name to have when you like back in the day. So when I was a kid, I was like, oh, when I'm on Survivor, I'm gonna be Philly James. But like now I don't care about that at all. But it's cool to see like, okay, now nobody's calling him Philly James yet, but he is Philly James,
Yeah. Well, this James from Philly is a 37-year-old event planner.
I love Philly James's energy here.
Oh yeah.
He's definitely very likable. I didn't get any like miraculous like confessionals in terms of gameplay or whatnot, but he gave me the vibe of similar to like Jesse, where he's open to whatever alliance is going to work once they have to go to tribal, and he's saying yes to whoever asks him. Yeah, he's actually going to get approached by one of the women after they discuss being in a women's alliance, and they want James to be the fourth. So they want to pull in James as the one guy to vote with the women's alliance to, like, if they have to go to tribal, they'll vote out one of the guys using James. Like he's the one that they think they can use, and that's a good sign. Now we'll see if is going to snuff out that potentially this women's alliance is legit, and if he goes along with it, he might be on the wrong side of the numbers.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, when it is one of these like physical characteristic alliances and you're the extra person who's the honorary whatever, like, you gotta assume you're the first to go out when you're down to 4 or whatever, right? So, like, that's not the alliance to go with, probably, I guess.
But I feel like James gives me a vibe that, like, you know, he's probably good with everybody, and like the person that asked him to be part of the women's alliance might not realize that he's actually tighter with the other women than she is with the women, or like something like that. You know, like, just because you vote against your gender doesn't mean that the other gender is going to steamroll you if you ever go back to tribal council again. It's not really. It's usually not how it works out.
Okay.
But I actually have a couple things that Billy James said on the mat.
Yeah, I was going to say he has a great mat moment.
Yes.
Because he gets called on by Jeff when Jeff's randomly calling on people at the beginning. And he says that when Earl won, I don't know who Earl is, but there was a brief shot of a man who I assume was Earl winning, I guess. But he said that seeing someone that looks like him who was winning meant a lot, because Philly James is a black man, and was Earl the first black person to win?
He was the first black man to win.
Okay.
So Earl actually, he played in the original Survivor Fiji. Now every season's on Fiji now, but the season was actually called Survivor Fiji that he played on. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty good with season numbers. I want to say season 14 is Earl's season.
Pretty
so
early,
it's been a while.
Yeah.
That season, Earl was actually Earl and 2 other black people made it to the final 3 together, which was impressive.
Wow. Yeah.
And Earl actually won with a unanimous vote. And he may have played a perfect game.
Wow.
Meaning he never received votes at tribal council.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm confident he won unanimously, but I'm not sure. He might have gotten a perfect game. I forget. But I thought this was a good moment, you know.
Yeah.
There's some, if we want to talk like pure strategy, you know, like is it good to advertise that you're thinking along like gender or race or anything like this? But I think this is just like, you know, this is what he said to Jeff when he got on the show. It's a moment that he wants to be on the show, and Jeff is giving him that opportunity to talk about it. And I liked it. It was good. Felt good.
Yeah. It shows why representation is like important. Yeah.
Yeah. Earl never played Survivor again. I think he was going to be on the season 40 Winners at War season when they brought back all the winners. But I think he had a family situation that unfortunately happened. If I'm remembering correctly, is something I heard. But he wasn't able to come back for the all winner season.
Oh.
But since then, he is in an episode of Snake in the Grass.
Oh, okay.
So I still need to watch more Snake in the Grass, but he's in an episode with at least 2 other Survivor people.
Oh, nice.
And it might be 4 Survivor people, but I forget.
Oh, well, that's the episode I want to watch.
It might be the episode.
All Survivor people.
I think that episode, and then there's an episode with like Survivor women. That's like all women. He's on. I think his episode is all guys, and then there's like an all women episode of Snake in the Grass. I think those are the 2 that I really want to get to. But I'll let you know when I watch them if you should watch Earl's Snake in the Grass episode. Yeah. I'm rooting for Jesse more because I was impressed by his like confessional and his backstory and all this. But I really just love Billy James's vibe. And maybe I'm biased because of his name and location, but I just love his vibe.
I'll say like his location is definitely giving him an advantage in my book.
Oh, it is? Okay. You know? I'm not much.
I can't help it.
I'm actually not much of a like root for people that live near me kind of person, but but yeah. I generally just liked his vibe on the show. And he's going to tell us that he actually is like a chess player.
Oh yeah. Like, and he did really well. He mentioned some sort of competition that I forget what it was called, but it seemed like he was doing pretty well.
Like the way he worded it wasn't like, okay, like I don't think he's like a master chess player. Definitely not a grandmaster, but I don't even know if he's like a master. But like he had a period of his life where he was winning whatever his division was, and maybe whatever his like rating was, he was winning tournaments.
Right.
And he's gonna make a chess analogy, Sarah. The classic. This is a classic Survivor confessional. Like trying to talk about like. Well, first of all, you just say like, "Oh, Survivor is like blank, blank, blank," and then, but so many people say Survivor is a lot like chess, and then they come up with something to say. Did you write down James's chess analogy?
Something about he doesn't have to be the king; he'll look like a pawn, or something like that.
Yeah,
exactly
I think it was I want to be the king, but I'm going to look like the pawn.
There you go.
And as far as chess analogies goes for Survivor, that's pretty good. He didn't really say like, "Oh, Survivor is like chess." He just like used chess to describe what his strategy is going to be, which is not much. It's pretty much similar to like what Cassidy said, where it's basically like the lie low strategy.
Yeah.
You know you're the king, but you're gonna make everybody think you're a pawn. Yeah. Because then they would no reason to target you. So I liked it. Billy James, I like what you're putting down so far.
He did amuse me at one point. I think it's when they were discussing if they were gonna do the puzzle or the digging the stuff up. Like in his confessional, he's just like, I didn't come out here to be a strong person.
Yeah.
I don't want to dig this up. And I was like, I can relate. Yes.
Yeah. He really did not want to do the dig, but once 2 other people volunteered, he did not protest. He said, okay, as long as I'm not doing the dig, I'm good.
Yep.
So again, that's exactly what I would do. It's perfectly played so far. Who's next?
Next is Carla, who is a 28-year-old educational project manager.
Yes. Women's Alliance.
They show a bit of her, like, when they're all coming in on boats, they, like, cut away to different people and, like, show pictures from their lives and do their little, I don't know, whenever they say, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be the best or whatever. But one of her pictures was a picture of her and her wife, and immediately I was just like, yes!
Okay.
Give me those queer people!
So this is the woman that bonded with Gio over their queerness. I think she specifically says she was her wife's first girlfriend. And she gave kind of the opposite vibe where like her family seems to be cool, but maybe her girlfriend's family or her wife's family
we're less
struggled
accepting.
with it. It didn't seem like it was as bad as Gio.
Yeah, like they might be coming around and it just might have been difficult to get to a better place, but yeah, still suboptimal.
It sucks either way, but didn't seem to be as dramatic of a story as Gio's. Carla, what do I have? She's talking to somebody, and she like, I'll say this about Carla, like she doesn't look like she's like the most physically fit person out there. Is that fair to say, Sarah? Okay.
Yeah.
And she makes this classic mistake, I think. Now, this wasn't a confessional, so maybe she's just trying to say the right thing to the right person. But she does mention at some point, like, oh, I think we should keep the tribe strong.
Oh.
And this is a go-to move, like very basic strategy, like win immunity challenges so that you don't have to go to tribal council and then you can't get voted out. But if you think you might be labeled as somebody who is not good in challenges, I don't think you want to be presenting that. Yeah, you don't want to bring that up. Now she did. I think she said this to somebody that she thought maybe would say that. So maybe she was trying to like say what they want to hear. But then later, similarly to how Jesse was on the Red Tribe, she is going to feel as though she has this women's alliance, but she's also like talking to the guys and getting along with the guys and talking about keeping the tribe strong and stuff like that. And so she actually feels in the moment like she might be in the middle of the tribe.
Yeah, and she says she didn't think anybody was going to want to work with her, but suddenly everybody does. And I wrote a note here where I'm like, I don't know why people don't expect this. Like, I thought the thing was you are just basically an alliance slut. And you go around and you're going like, we're going to work together, right? We're going to work together, right? Like, I thought that's the beginning of the game.
Exactly.
You just say that to everyone.
Exactly. And it could have been through the music of this or something about the vibe of it. It felt like this, compared to Jesse's version of this being in the middle, this felt like potentially like a setup for maybe next episode or whatever. The first tribe that goes this first time Blue Tribe goes to tribal council. I don't know. I got a bad vibe from this edit because it was a little bit confusing where she said things like, "Oh, I feel like I'm in the middle," but then she says, "But I didn't expect to be in the middle. Like I thought people would want to vote me out first. So I'm a little confused as to why I feel like I'm in the middle now. Like even she isn't really like comfortable with how she's feeling about her position. She seems to be very confused and doesn't really know which way to go. And I don't know if that's going to trip her up or if it's just going to be straight like at some like literally the tribe might just decide that she's the worst in challenges and that might be the reason she goes home. And people are just saying yes to her and she's kind of falling for it.
Bummer. I like her.
Yeah. I like Carla too. I hope she's makes it further, but yeah, I got a bad vibe. But Carla,
she went on the boat,
is going to be the blue representative to go to the summit, but she's going to be the person that decides not to risk her vote.
See, she's super smart.
Yeah. If you're Carla though, Sarah, assuming Carla doesn't have a master plan like I do with the vote,
so you're saying she should have.
Carla, if you're somebody, especially it's like she said, I thought I would come into the game and I would be the first one voted out. Like she acknowledged this, that like she's a typical person that might get voted out first. I think, you just got to take the risk here. If you think you're at a disadvantage from the start, now maybe she got good enough vibes. Maybe she would have risked it if she didn't get these vibes before going to the summit. But I think you have to take the risk here if you're Carla. I like this. The reward ends up being an immunity idol that can be used for the first 2 tribals councils that you go to. It can be used once.
Is it that you go to, or
it's that
the
you
first
go to?
2?
It should. I think it's that you go to.
Oh, interesting.
So she can, if she got this and had any doubts about where she stood in the tribe, which she seems to have, she could just play it at the first tribal to guarantee herself survival, and then she will find out for sure if the tribe was planning to vote her out or if she was actually good, and then she can just apologize later and say like, hey, I just wasn't 100% sure, so I played it, and I see that you guys are working with me now and I fully trust you now. Like she can talk her way out of it later. Now she didn't know it was going to be an idol. Especially since last season, it was just an extra vote.
It was just an extra vote, right?
Yeah. And an extra vote, if she's going to get steamrolled, like if she gets 5-1 or even 4-2, an extra vote's not going to save her. Now, there's a chance that if she's really women strong, like maybe she could be thinking, oh, there's a chance it's men versus women and an extra vote could make the difference. I don't know. I think if I was this person that knows like they need a lot of things to go right, in order to make it past the early stages of the game, I think I would just be taking risks, like doing risky decisions like this. But we'll see how it turns out. I got bad vibes about Carla, in terms of her longevity in the game, but I'm not rooting for it. I hope she survives.
Yeah, I hope she sticks around. Lindsay is next. Yes, she's a 42-year-old pediatric nurse. She says she's Survivor's biggest fan. And that
she does say
loved
that,
Survivor. She's loved Survivor longer than she's known her husband, her kids, or her nursing career. She didn't say she loved Survivor more than those things, but it sounded close enough.
Like everybody thinks they're like the biggest Survivor fan, and even if you're not, like you're gonna say you are when you're on the show. So I never like take these things super seriously.
But that's like, I don't have a lot to go on for her.
Yeah, they did like give pictures of her like in working in the hospital, and like she has a Survivor buff on, and like stuff like that, like stuff that is a little like, okay, you have a Survivor buff, like you went out of your way, like little things that maybe prove that she could be a super fan. But yeah, I didn't make much. I didn't take it as like, oh, she's actually like the biggest fan on the show or anything like that. Even though the show kind of made it seem that way. A bigger fan than Cody, I think, though. Cody bottom of the list.
Oh man, you are not a fan of Cody.
Binge it. Binge Survivor. You're ready. No, get out here. But Lindsay,
man, if he wins,
I'll be bitter. I'll if he does some good stuff later. I'll admit it. I'll I'll change my mind. But nothing in this first episode gave me any indicator that he's gonna be making some impressive things happen. Yes. So Lindsay, I would say she was the main catalyst in talking about making
The
a women's
Girls
alliance.
Alliance. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She has a confessional where she says like something along the lines of like, I've always wanted to have an all women's alliance.
Mm.
Like this is something she's wanted, and this is a confessional, I believe. So she is the one
Yeah.
that's most gun ho about this.
Yeah, definitely.
And she's the one I think that brings up, oh, it'll be us women, and we'll pull in Philly James to be the fourth. And she's the one that approaches Philly James, and we get their conversation. And Philly James seemed cool with it. You know, he was pretty chillax about the whole thing. So,
got a real laid back vibe. Yeah.
What are your opinions on? I'm curious what your opinions are on this women's alliance. Now, you haven't watched. I've seen this women's alliance so many times. It's talked about like every season, so it's almost like cliche at this point. But having only watched the two, like the most recent season, what are your opinions on the women's alliance as a strategy?
Like I feel like it never works with what I've seen so far. Like
Only
it
one
falls
season,
apart
but
so quickly. Yeah. Well, one season and one episode, but we'll get to that. But I mean, like in theory, sure, it makes sense. Like I not knowing much about Survivor, it feels intuitive to be like the guys probably vote off girls subconsciously earlier, you know? Like it feels like I don't know the math on that, but that feels probably like that might happen. So having a women's alliance to sort of work around that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But again, what I've seen, it doesn't last. So whatever.
Yeah. I think on paper, it's actually a great idea. Like, again, like, okay, if you're looking at the entire history of Survivor, like, there is a tendency to vote out women first.
Yeah.
I don't know if that necessarily applies to more recent Survivor.
Okay.
So I don't think people should, like, be looking at old data when they make the decision to do this.
Okay.
But especially in the early stages of the game, it is valuable to get the people that like think like you and might have a bias towards you, like a women's kind of camaraderie type of thing. And you're incentivized to get those people at least to the jury.
Right.
Because then they'll be there to potentially vote for you and might use their biases to vote for you to win the game if you can make it to the end.
Yeah, makes sense.
It seems great. But the problem is you have to have 3 women, even in this small tribe scenario, you have to have 3 women that are really committed to this. And all it takes is one of them to flake on it.
And then it's gone, yeah.
And then it's gone.
Which is like true of any alliance, even if it's based on nothing. Like, and the beginning is just make a bunch of fake alliances and see what shakes out and lasts.
But I think what tends to happen is the woman who is like the most gung-ho about doing this is the person who like will be the downfall. The downfall. Like no, they're not going to betray it, but they're going to be like once the alliance crumbles, like they'll be the first target kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to see an example of this in what happens in the Yellow Tribe when they go to tribal council. But I think if I was a woman going on the show, would I say yes to a women's alliance? Absolutely. But I think the right mentality to have with it is like, again, like you're still being flexible. You're agreeing to alliance because it was proposed to you. And ultimately, like this alliance really, for most women, I think, when they agree to it, is actually like a backup plan. It's not the main plan. Okay. And the person that thinks it's the main plan
is the one who's
usually one that's going to get burned first.
Okay.
Because we're going to see in the next tribe a similar agreement. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if 1 or 2 of the women are more traditional Survivor mindset people who are just say, you know what, I don't want to go back to tribal council, they are going to be incentivized to keep guys around that they see as stronger. So that is what often happens. And if that happens, I think Lindsay will be the odd person out. Similar to what we're going to see on the Yellow Tribe. So I think it's like, okay, is this a good thing to do and have as an option in the game? Yes. But you can't be thinking like when you go into the game, because I'm a woman and these people are women, all I have to do is bring up a women's lines and they're going to be all in. Like you can't have that mindset going into the game.
You have to understand it's everybody else's backup.
Yeah, it's it's a plan that they want to work, but ultimately like everybody's gonna do what they want, what they think is best for their game, and a lot of the times that might be voting out a woman because they're seen to be like not as strong in challenges. So yeah,
bummer.
But I already said that, you know, I feel like I have a bad vibe coming from Carla in terms of her longevity in the game. So between her and Lindsay, I don't know
that this ladies alliance is gonna keep up.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. It's interesting. It's always like an interesting like social experiment that you get to see play out. But it happens like almost every season. So it has succeeded in the past, but it fails more often than not. Like any alliance in the game, honestly. Most alliances will fail. Only one person can win. Only one alliance can like really steamroll to the end or get to the end together. But yeah, one more person on the Blue Tribe.
Yes, this is Ryan. He is 25 and a warehouse associate and a personal trainer. We learn about him. Damn. Yeah. Well, we learn.
I didn't write that down, but that's a lot of things.
There are more things about him. He was born 3 months early with mild cerebral palsy, and he could not walk.
The doctor said he would never walk.
Yes, they said he would never walk. But then his mom was like, nope, physical therapy forever. And then eventually he could walk, and now he's like super buff. So
it took 4 years of physical therapy, I think he said.
Yeah.
And he uses the term mild cerebral palsy. So I'm not totally familiar with it, but it sounds like, you know, he didn't get the worst of it, which is why physical therapy was an option for him, fortunately.
Still a lot,
but still the doctor said he would never walk. So
overcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
In addition, I don't know if it's a separate thing or if it's related to cerebral palsy, but he also has like, he describes it as like a stutter in his brain where he's kind of like, his brain is a little delayed and it's like sensory, something like that. So similarly to like how he had to learn how to walk, like throughout his whole life, it's like he's had to learn how to like rewire his brain compared to everybody else's to like compensate for this delay that his brain has.
Yeah, and he said that it has, because of that, he's like pretty good at observing people because he has to like observe them to sort of anticipate what they're going to do or say. And so like he forms it as like an advantage that he kind of has here on that front now. Yeah. It came from a disadvantage.
Yeah. Super interesting. I'm glad he's out here on the show. And I'm really curious to see if what he says, I believe like a lot of people like kind of come up with like, oh, this is why I'm going to be good at Survivor. But this is actually like kind of an interesting one to me where he might have actually like a different kind of set of skills that most people wouldn't have because he's had to overcome different challenges in his learning ability and stuff like that. So I'm super interested to see how Ryan does on the show.
Yeah, I'd say so far he does pretty okay because he is the other one who digs up for the tools with Geo, and he immediately comes up with a strategy that seems to work.
Yeah, I thought about this. Like, I when he first said it, I was like, okay, I don't know if this is like the best strategy, but it's a strategy. The strategy he comes up with is just basically like to take the square and then just go have him and
Geo,
the other guy, Geo, like start at a corner and then like go diagonally to make like a giant X. And he thinks like, oh, this will cover the most ground. I don't know if that's necessarily true.
But it works out. They dig up the tools and it only takes them like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I think ultimately like either they were just good at digging, quick at digging.
Or they got lucky.
It didn't seem like Gio was all that great at it. So I think Ryan was probably good at it. Not that they got lucky. I just think like, okay, if you were any good at digging at all, like this finding the supplies in the sand thing just wasn't as hard as it looked. But he found it in 30 minutes. So what do I know?
Yeah, good job.
He did. He had one task on this episode and he nailed it. So I got to give him credit. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Ryan does going forward.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is the Blue Tribe.
Nice.
Interesting dynamics on the Blue Tribe. We kind of got like the cliche women's alliance, but I'm interested to see where it goes. They didn't show like super. I don't think there was like a super big camaraderie that they showed between the three guys in this tribe.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe the women's alliance is actually like the strongest alliance in this tribe, and it could help them that maybe Gio is seen as another like weak challenge person, and maybe like they like maybe Carla is as good as Gio is in the challenges, and ultimately they decide like, oh, I'd rather play the game with Carla. I have a better relationship with Carla, so maybe the women's alliance does win out, and Gio is the target. I don't know.
I think this is my team where I like the most people, so I'm gonna hope that they just keep winning things and don't have to send people away.
That's true. Yeah, my favorite tribe was the Yellow Tribe.
Ooh, okay.
And they had to vote somebody out this episode.
The Yellow team is also known as the Baka Tribe.
Yes, Baka. Best name to it.
Baka.
Coco's a little silly, and Vessi is like, I don't really know if I'm saying it right, but Baka, I got Baka. That's easy.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. First up is Ellie. She's a 31-year-old clinical psychologist.
Yeah, I'm looking up Ellie's picture right now because I'm forgetting.
Oh, Ellie. I added pictures to my notes.
Ellie becomes she's gonna be more in play once they have to go to tribal, right? She's like one of the bigger catalysts in the episode at that point. Yeah. Oh, she has some fun stuff actually. Oh, I'm reading my notes now. Okay, cool.
Maybe not fun. But
okay. Sorry.
Some of it's
one
fun.
Terrible thing and one fun thing. Sorry. I read the fun thing first.
Okay, what's the fun thing?
Well, I think let's talk about the bad thing first because it kind of relates to the fun thing.
Okay.
But yeah, she's gonna be part of the Women's Alliance talk, of course. And
of course.
And unfortunately, she had a sister that died in 2020. Now, I thought this was going to be a COVID death.
Oh yeah, so did I.
But it actually is a drug overdose.
An overdose situation, yeah.
Very sad. They showed the conversation. I think she was talking with the other girls on the tribe, and the one girl was like, "Oh, I have a sister who's like 42 years old, and I'm one of 38." And then like she had like 7 sisters,
a bunch
and they
of
were
sisters,
like 20 years apart, like crazy amount of siblings. And then Ellie was just like, "Oh yeah, I had a sister too," but they died. Like it was like, oh, she was like, it was like a very drastic change in the conversation, not in like a weird way, but
it's one of those things that comes up, and it was sad. She said actually the last conversation she had with her sister was about Survivor. So there's a connection there.
I would say that's a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have way worse conversations as your last conversation, you know?
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, they did have a really sweet moment where like she tells the other women about this, and then one by one they're like, "Oh, I want to hug you. Can I hug you?" And then they're all hugging, and they're like, "Okay." They're like really vibing. Yeah. And you're like, "Okay, I can see how a girls' alliance might work here."
Yeah. It's, I wouldn't say it's an indicator of like actual gameplay. But hey, maybe I'm wrong.
But they're at least like gonna tell each other that they're bonding, like there's something there.
Yeah. But I mean, like if I was there in this conversation, I would behave the exact same way that all of these they're behaving. So but no, I thought this was cool. After I think they did these, they talked about the death first, and then they talked about this. And this is cool. This is a cool like homage to your sister, right? So there's another member of this tribe. There's an older guy on this tribe that we'll get to later. But that the older guy is like really into like heavy metal music.
Oh yeah.
And Ellie finds out that he's into heavy metal music, and then she actually knows a little bit about heavy metal music because her sister was really into heavy metal music.
Yes.
So she like goes to the older guy and talks to him about heavy metal music, and like the older guy is like, "Oh, that's so cool that you're a metalhead just like me." Like, I thought this was awesome.
And she's just like pulling at names of bands she sort of has heard of, but doesn't really listen to.
He seemed to be eating it up though. It was awesome. I thought this was great.
And like the thing that led into that scene was like a confessional with him where he's like, "Yeah, and I'm trying to bond with these younger kids," and like, it was just like exactly what he was looking for.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really like that, and I actually think like So, some people that get on the show, like, they're super interesting people, of course, and they have amazing stories. But also, it's going to be a long 26, 39 days, whatever it is. You're going to have to talk with people and exchange stories.
Mm-hmm.
Just steal other people's stories, Sarah. Like, if you had a friend or a relative that told
Mm-hmm.
you a good story once, as long as it's not
Yeah.
something like you have to be like, you're going to have follow-up questions on, just be like, yeah, this is my story. I'm a
I mean,
big
but
heavy
couldn't you
metal
just
fan.
be?
I've listened to all these bands that I know the name of and everything about, of course. Like use whatever you have to your advantage to connect with people.
But couldn't you still just be like, oh yes, my sister was into heavy metal, like, or whatever story. Like one time my friend told me this story. Like you don't have to claim it as your own necessarily.
Oh, but it's not nearly as like if I'm just like, oh, you're into heavy metal. My sister was into heavy metal, and it'd be like, oh, that's cool. Like how do you? I don't know. I think what she did
Yeah.
was way better. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just take it as your own. I mean, now if they're gonna have deep heavy metal conversations in the future, maybe she isn't
Then
able
she's
to.
gonna be in trouble. Yeah.
She might be in trouble, but you know, she can deal with that when it comes to it.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, do you want to tell a story that I can use when I'm on Survivor? What's like a fun story?
You're gonna put me on the spot.
You don't have to do it now.
No, I got it. When I was in Portland, I met some. Oh, where were they from? Filipino grandmas, who were confused about if they were taking the right bus, and they were going to the same place I was going. So I helped them. And then after that, they were also going to go to the same place I was going. And so I just ended up spending the whole day with these Filipino grandmas, and they were super impressed when I called like a Lyft to come and, like I called a car to take us to this place. And the Lyft thought they were my grandmas. And essentially they became my grandmas. Like we're Facebook friends and they send me grandma posts. And so I have Filipino grandmas now.
Okay.
So there you go.
That's incredible.
All yours.
That's a pretty good story. I don't know if I could sell that as well as you just did, but well, you're
Yeah,
not
I don't
selling
know
it.
that-
It actually happened to you, but it's a good story. It's a good story because it's like, oh, like, you help somebody out and that was kind of struggling, and then you had a great time with them, and like it's somebody like you wouldn't have spent time with otherwise. So
I didn't even tell you the like optimal part of the story where like we were going to a Japanese garden. And I was just like, okay, we're here. Bye. Have a good time. And then later I just hear from over a hill, Sarah from Pennsylvania. Hey, can you come take a picture of us? And it's just, yeah, they just kept calling me Sarah from Pennsylvania. And so they could have called you Philly James. There you go.
oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that moniker. I don't deserve to
Okay.
be called Philly. No.
Okay.
Not a good
fair enough.
representation of me. I could be Pennsylvania James doesn't sound great, but
James from Pennsylvania.
now if I told that story, would it make the edit of the show? I don't know, but still,
Maybe not,
that's
but
besides the
it
point,
might
but
entertain some people.
Yeah.
So
it would be so awesome to get on the show, steal somebody's story. That's like
that's
still
the only thing that gets in the
that's
edit.
like that makes the edit, and like the person that you're like still close with like knows like you stole that story from them. That'd be awesome.
Oof. But you're welcome to it. There you go.
All right.
I've
Well,
given you this story.
I don't need your permission. I'll use it. Any story you ever
Okay.
tell me may be used on Survivor.
Okay. Do I gotta sign some paperwork somewhere? Just a release form?
Nope.
All my stories are yours for Survivor?
It's public
Okay.
information as far as I'm concerned.
Fair enough.
All right. Next person on yellow.
Yes, it is Janine, who is 24 and a UX designer. She has a nice little Matt moment where she's like the first person that Jeff calls on, and she's like all hyped. And she says that Survivor's always been her dream, but it was also her father's dream. So it's like a double dream.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember this story. I didn't write this one down, but yeah. A lot of these, like, oh, it's my dream to be on Survivor, like, they're just so generic to me. But she had something about her dad was like a potato farmer or something.
Yes, I think that he immigrated from China where he was a potato farmer, and now he's a doctor of something. I forget. I didn't write it down.
Yeah,
It was a fancy job
He
now.
came a long way from potato farmer, whatever
Yeah.
the story was. Yeah, it was pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. And he's very proud of her being on Survivor. So, aw.
I didn't write anything down about Janine other than that she's part of the Women's Alliance,
Mm-hmm.
and she figures out the final last piece step of the number puzzle that they're gonna because this
yes.
tribe is going to choose the savvy version of the second chance supply task. Let's wait. I think Sammy is the last person. on this tribe
Yeah,
that we're
and
going to
he
talk about.
is
And he
more
is
involved in this puzzle.
He is the main
puzzle guy, really.
The big breakthrough in solving the puzzle was Sammy. So
Mm.
we'll come back to Janine and give her the credit at the end, but let's wait till we get to Sammy to talk about the solution to the puzzle. Yeah. So yeah, I don't have anything else with Janine besides that. She was pretty under-edited. Mm-hmm. Somehow, despite being on the tribe that goes to tribal council, actually.
Yeah. I mean, she comes up later when they're talking about who they're going to vote for, but we'll get to that.
She kind of takes a back seat to Ellie, and it's going to become Ellie's plan, and she's kind of just like the +1 on Ellie in this episode.
Yeah.
As it is depicted in the episode. Not saying that's actually what happened out there, but that's the story.
We only have the edit to go by.
Yeah, that's the story we get. Janine could have been much more involved, but it was easier to edit it the way that they did. Mm-hmm. The next person is Mike.
No, I'm sorry, it's Gabler.
It's Gabler.
Mike
Okay.
Gabler.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody calls him Gabler for whatever reason.
Yeah, so this is like a thing. I don't know if I ever told you this. Like, this is like a thing on Survivor where like people notice that like, oh, the contestants that Jeff uses their last name instead of their first name, it's like some indicator that Jeff like likes you or something like really? That. Yeah. So there eventually became like a little bit of a meta thing where like famously like one guy came on the show and he was aware of this and his name was John, but his name was John Cochran. So then when I think Jeff like called him out by name, like he didn't ask like, oh, what's your name? He was just like, hey, and John, what do you think about all this just being out here for the first time? And he was just like, actually, Jeff, I want you to call me Cochran because you seem to like people better when you use their last name, like something like that. I forget what it was exactly. And Jeff just obliged, and he became Cochran for the rest of Survivor history.
Interesting. Okay.
But it
so
used
is
to be
that
more
what
natural.
Mike was doing here by like introducing himself by his last name first? You think that was the move?
Yeah, he was like, so he said like, I'm Mike Gabler, like he said his full name, and then Jeff, maybe there was more that didn't make the edit, but Jeff like instantly just started calling him Gabler. I don't know if some sort of meta moment happened similar to the Cochran moment, but they just edited it out. But Jeff instantly called him Gabler. I used to think this was like a cool thing, like, oh yeah, it'd be cool if Jeff called me Galgon, my last name. But I'm over it. I don't really care.
Fair.
I'm not into these. Like, I used to be like more of like a nerdy superfan, but now I'm just like, I'm a Survivor player, not a crazy person for all this antics.
Yeah. But yeah, Gabler is a 52-year-old heart valve specialist, and he has a big old goatee that scares me.
Okay.
Not a fan.
What about it? It's like, what does he look like?
It's
he's
just,
like
he's
in like a
big
biker gang
bushy.
or something. What do you think?
I don't know.
What does it make you think of?
The vibes are off. I just don't like it. And there's a part later where they're in a one of the challenges. They have to like crawl through mud, and there's this shot. It's like a high-speed camera, so it's slow motion, super detailed, and it's just this goatee caked in mud, and I'm just like, oh, so gross. I hate it.
Okay. I didn't think anything about this guy's facial hair, but
it's all I think about with him. It's just, oh no, do not like.
What Gabler, the only thing that he seems to be able to think about is how he's the oldest person on the show.
Oh, like, he is always talking about it.
He's obsessed with this fact. And it's similar in a way to how I was like talking about Cassidy, where she was like talking about how she's a woman and what that means for her as a woman on the show. Like, Gabler is like coming on the show and being like, I know traditionally the old person gets targeted first, so
is that accurate?
Back in the day,
old people get kicked out?
Back in the day for sure. Now, like, he has a little bit of a moment in the immunity challenge. But that didn't seem like overly that bad. But like sometimes the old person is just the weakest challenge person on the tribe. So it's a correlation, but not necessarily causation.
Causation, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't look like somebody that would be like the worst challenge person on the tribe. So, but he's still, he's the hero of his own story. Like, he thinks he's watched Survivor throughout the history of Survivor, and old people get voted out, and I'm an old person. Like, he's like, this is my identity. Like, it's weird that he's like putting himself into this box. Yeah,
it's like every single confessional.
It's crazy how much he's talking about it. Yeah. Now, I will say, what concerns me more about him is that not only is he old, but he plays like an old school player. So he's
Ooh, in
probably
what way?
he's probably like the player who's most obsessed with winning challenges.
Ah, okay.
Not super crazy, but he's in the episode we're going to see him talk about how important he thinks winning immunity challenges is. And he's going to be very much like somebody that's like, we got to keep the tribe strong for challenges, like using that kind of lingo. And then he's going to have a moment after they lose the challenge, which is like very weird. And we can get into that later.
Yeah.
But it seems to be, he tries to sell it as another thing, like, oh, because he's old and because he messed up in the challenge kind of idea.
Right.
But yeah, this is Gabler, the metalhead, who gets schooled by
I have
schooled by Ellie.
silly notes about him.
Okay.
One is that bro has so many tattoos. Like, you don't expect it.
Oh,
and
really?
then he like takes off his shirt at some point, and we're like, maybe not full sleeves, but at least full half sleeves, I guess. Like,
okay. I didn't even
across
notice
his chest. That's because it looks similar when he has a shirt on to when he has a shirt off, because that's how much.
Oh, I did notice that he wore a shirt that I thought looked like he had a lot of tattoos, but I thought it was just a shirt.
Yeah, but then he takes the shirt off, and it's just a lot of tattoos.
Oh, okay.
Didn't actually.
He did have some weird shirt on, yeah.
Yeah. The second thing is that, like, when he was doing the initial, like, oh yeah, we're gonna work together thing, like, he's like giving people handshakes, and that to me feels like an old man thing. But also, I just hate handshakes. Handshakes are gross. Why would people do this? I mean,
you're in the freaking jungle, Sarah. Everything's gross at this point.
No, I just like
you're just
in normal society, like, I just don't like handshakes.
Okay.
It like, oh, I don't know. There's just something too formal about them.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I feel like I know when to do them, when not to do them.
I feel like they're never needed.
They're definitely never needed, but you know, it's definitely more of a guy thing for sure, right?
I guess, but like, so this goatee and all these handshakes, I'm not vibing with this man at all.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not vibing with him because I just don't like his mindset going to the game. He's only 51. Like, he might feel a little more self-conscious about it because of his tribe. Let's see. He's the next oldest person on his tribe is 31. So there is a 20-year gap between him and the next youngest person in the tribe.
Yeah.
So I understand him feeling self-conscious about it a little bit, but I don't think he needs to have a mentality of like, you know, chances are I'm going to get voted out first. Like, it's a little bit of unnecessarily playing on the back foot from the start.
And when it does come down to it, like, he insinuates that he's going to be voted for, and immediately, like, most of the tribe is like, no, we're definitely not going to vote him out, right? Like, that would be ridiculous. So, like, I think it is all in his head.
Now, he could be right, but
okay,
Gabler is the selected summit member for the Yellow Tribe, and he risks his vote, and he wins the advantage. So he keeps his vote.
Yes, he does.
And he wins the advantage, which is a hidden immunity idol that can be used at his first 2 tribal councils. One time. And he does one time at either one.
Yeah. He comes back from the boat trip and tells everybody what it was, then walks away, opens his thing, and like immediately shouts in victory.
Yeah.
So like everybody knows he has this.
Yeah.
Like, he told everybody.
Yeah. I think the mechanic of this was like, okay, you take it was almost like a stopwatch looking thing that they had to take, and then you had like open the stopwatch or whatever.
Pocket watch,
yeah, kind of something that like you could have like a watch or like a locket. I would say a locket that would like have a picture in it.
Okay.
And so they each got that one, but they weren't allowed to open it at the Summit Island. They had to wait till they got back, and then they had to open it. I think the show made them open it alone, which is why he walked away to open it. But he basically goes to his tribe, tells them exactly what happened, and is like, I have a 50% chance of having an advantage and a 50% chance of losing my vote. And then he walks away, goes and opens it, and then he opens it, and then he just screams with joy at the top of his lungs to basically tell his tribe, which he was planning on doing anyway, to tell his tribe that he got the advantage. And then he even like shows them the piece of paper to like prove it.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for them to doubt him. Now, I think Gabler would have done this no matter what the advantage was. Depending on what the advantage is, I think like maybe you don't want to tell people.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely, I think, helps him here that everybody knows he has an idol, and that idol is only good for 2 tribal councils. Because like they could be thinking, oh, like 50% chance he uses it at the first vote. We can't put votes on him. So
Right.
I think he may have actually been an option for the first boot. And this might have actually saved him.
Everything.
It's possible
That's
that this
fair.
saved him. So he might be perfectly right, and maybe his confessionals were totally based in accurate social reading of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not be giving. Maybe I'm not giving Gabler enough credit for his social awareness. But yeah, he's going to get an idol, and it's definitely going to be good for him because people are just kind of going to totally dismiss him as an option for being voted out because they know he has an idol almost.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, that's Gabler. I think he's an interesting character. Like, he's doing a lot for the confessionals and trying to make the show fun, I think.
Yeah, interesting. Not my favorite.
Yeah, not my favorite. Yeah. All right. Next is Mariah.
She is 28 and a teacher, and also from Philly.
Yes, she's going to be the third woman on the tribe.
And she stands out because she has multicolored dreadlocks.
Amazing look.
Yes. And on top of that, her clothes are like multicolored, like stripes, I think. So she is the brightest thing on the beach or in the jungle.
Yeah, like when they were rolling up in the boats, like your eyes just immediately go to her. You're like, who's that colorful person? Like, super awesome.
Yeah.
Outfit. Like, I guess it was yellow enough. Like, it was
I
mostly
feel like she
yellow.
just went, this is my one outfit. You can put me anywhere because it has all the colors in it.
I don't think this was like a look that she put together for Survivor. Like, they showed pictures of her that made it seem like, okay, this is just something. Like, her hair, I don't think she changed her hair for Survivor.
This is her typical vibe.
Yeah, so this is her. Like, it's pretty cool.
There is one thing about her outfit that worries me, which is she wears these dangly rainbow earrings, and I'm just like, don't crawl through the mud and the whatever these challenges in those earrings. I'm so nervous about they're gonna get caught on something.
Yeah, you're right. I think she was wearing those the whole time, even in the challenge.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, that is pretty wild. To wear any earrings at all,
it was
really.
fine.
Like, other than maybe like studs or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a lot on her before we get to
tribal stuff.
Except in the beginning, I liked she was one of the confessionals I liked in the beginning. Because she said, because whenever I used to talk about reality TV show with you, Sarah, you said like, it like everybody on that show is like, I'm not here to make friends. Like, it's like
that's the stereotypical.
I guess they say it. I don't. Yeah, I guess they always let somebody say that every season. But Mariah says she is here to make friends, Sarah.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that, you know?
Yeah, she's got a good vibe.
Even if, like, I'm gonna be out there trying to win the game, you know, but I'm not here to not make friends, you know.
Yeah.
In fact, like, definitely. The way Survivor works is like you better make friends, even if that friendship ends up being temporary. Like, you better be good at making friends if you want to be good on Survivor. So
yeah, definitely.
Don't go out there as this like robot who's just playing like trying to play the perfect strategic move, because most of the Survivor strategy is about making friends.
Yeah.
And reading social dynamics. So yeah, I liked this confessional.
Yeah.
From Mariah.
I did too. And I like her. She's
yes.
Cool. Next up is Owen, who is a 30-year-old college admissions director.
Owen has a fun moment in the opening. So Survivor, for people that remember, like older Survivor, like every episode used to have this cool, where they had the intro music and they would have like basically a a little video montage for like every player on every tribe.
Oh yeah.
And it would be like a cool like snapshot moment from a challenge, and they would have like a slow-mo of them like jumping in the water, and then their name would be on the screen, and every player would get that kind of credits moment. But then at some point, Survivor was like, you know what, we're better off not putting the opening credits in the show, and we're just gonna use this time to show more of the tribe life and get the better dynamic. Yeah, like let's use our time better, basically, is what the show decides.
Right.
But I think every season they do like have somebody put together an opening credits reel that maybe they'll post on social media or something.
Oh, okay.
But they actually decided to put this confessional of Owen in the opening of him saying, I can't believe I'm here or whatever, and I can't wait to see my name in the opening credits. And then they actually gave him like an opening credits style like moment in the opening montage, but he was like
Yeah,
the
he was
only
like,
one.
he's like, I used to daydream about my name in the opening
Yeah,
credits.
I like the meta-ness of that. The show between
Yeah.
that and like putting the LIVIN double exclamation point smiley face
Yeah.
like on the screen, like Survivor's having a little more fun with the edit this
Yeah, they're
season.
getting a little silly with it.
Yeah,
It's
I
nice.
like it. And there's another silly moment with our last person that we can get to too.
Mm-hmm.
But Owen.
Oh, he wants to scheme so bad, and no one on his tribe wants to scheme.
Oh, you think
And
so?
it's, oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Like when they first get back to, like when they get to the part where they've can set up camp or whatever, he's just like, I wanna make alliances, but nobody wants to be the first one to be like alliance time or whatever, and it's driving me crazy.
What I noticed is that the main moment from him I felt like was like he's using the I'll let you know if I hear your name strategy. Like he's going around to everybody be like, hey, I got your back, like if I hear your name. And this is like this strategy, it's like it's so basic that it kind of comes across as like disingenuous a little bit, because it's not really an attempt to like get to know somebody and like form a relationship with them.
Yeah.
And now maybe he was doing more and the show didn't show it. I'm maybe being a little hard. But do you remember Swathi from last season, Sarah?
Yes.
Yes. So she was a player early on that was doing something very similar to this, where she was just saying to people like, hey, I got your back, like everybody, like she was the one initiating the conversation, and she wasn't really trying to get to know people necessarily. She was just saying to people, hey, like if I hear your name, I'll let you know, like I have your back. And then eventually, like she said that to everybody on the tribe, and then eventually everybody in the tribe made deeper connections and eventually talked about her and realized like, oh, she said the same thing to all of us, and they used that as ammunition to get rid of her.
Yeah, the jig was up.
So I hope we get more from Owen. I think I actually will like Owen the more he's in the show, but I'm hoping that his strategy is not this basic. Yeah, because everybody else in this tribe is doing a lot more in terms of like actually making a connection than just being like, hey, if we have to go to tribal, I got your back. Like it's just too basic.
I mean, it did seem overall like the entire tribe did not get down to figuring out who they might vote for until the last minute when they realized they had to. Like they put off strategy for longer than the other tribes.
Yeah.
And I want to think that maybe it's because nobody else was really putting that energy out there, it was harder for him to get something going. I think it's at least how he thinks it went.
But I don't think it's an accident that Owen becomes a potential target when this tribe gets tribal council, and we can get into why that might be. Owen was also a person that this tribe ends up doing the savvy part of the second chance task. The last guy, Sammy, who we're going to talk about, he actually volunteered for the dig as one person, and Sammy Owen had a nice funny confessional where he was just like, no, like I can't do it. No, we're not doing the dig. I don't want to do the dig. Like if the tribe says
dig, it's gonna be me.
If the tribe decides to do a dig, they're gonna make me do it with you, Sammy. Like no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So he was just like Billy James, where he was like, I do not want to be doing the dig. But fortunately, everybody else in the tribe, nobody else wanted to do the dig, and they agreed to do the savvy. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I have on Owen.
Yeah. So speaking of Sammy, I think he's our last person. He's 19.
19.
And a pet cremator. And also I think he's a student.
A student was his like a first job that was on the screen.
Yeah, but he is also a pet cremator.
So his first confessional was they did another goofy thing, which was fun, which like usually when your name, like you go to a confessional and they throw your name on the screen, and they usually have like your name and then your occupation and then like maybe what tribe you're on. But his confession was about what his occupation was. So he said like, oh, I went to this school. I don't remember the school, but so I'm a student, but I'm also a pet cremator. And then when he said pet cremator, the show just like slapped the words pet cremator next to the word student. And then he's like, and I'm also a business owner hybrid of like all these like different jobs. And then the show slapped the word business owner hybrid to his list of jobs. Except it was so long that it didn't fit on the screen, so they put it like diagonally in the corner of the screen so that it would fit. And they I think they even had like a goofy sound effect every time they slapped a new job on the screen. Like, I'd never seen this before on Survivor. It was so goofy.
I'm enjoying the silly like.
It's okay for Survivor to be fun. It doesn't have to be serious all the time. Yeah. So Sammy, he's like, you know what, guys, I'm ready to dig. And let's emphasize that Sammy is only 19 years old. This is young.
But he tells everyone he's 22.
Yeah, this is okay. Now, this lie, Sarah, I think there's more merit to this lie.
This is a good lie?
Lying about your job. Now, is the difference between 19 and 22 going to make the difference in how people perceive you, like in terms of like winning or losing the game? Maybe there's a chance. Like 19 is very young, and I do think there is a stigma against young people that, you know, you're not going to take them as seriously. But again, like, is that because on the first day you told them your age and then they judged you off of it, or is it the way that you act as a young person that they start to see you as they don't take you as seriously? So it's like, what is like is him lying about his age really gonna make up for the fact that like his age will show eventually?
Right.
But I don't think it's crazy. The only downside is like, okay, now people might ask him like, oh, are you like graduating college or something? And then he has to like BS his way through that, which like is like, why put that burden through on yourself?
He can just talk about being a pet cremator.
Yeah, like, I don't go to school, I'm just a pet
business owner.
Yeah, I guess he can just be like, nah, I
whatever.
I dropped out of school and became a pet cremator.
Screw that. He went to school to become a pet cremator.
There's more merit to this lie, but even the way he said this, they showed like they didn't show the full conversation, so it's a little awkward. But he must have like introduced himself, and then one of the people was like, "Oh, you didn't say your age. How old are you?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm 22. If anybody was wondering." Like he even said it in like
awkward,
in a shifty way, like right off the bat. Like he's putting like too much on his plate. Like an unnecessary obstacle on his plate for him to like slip up. So I don't know. I think if you're grown up enough to be able to act in a way that people are going to respect you, I think telling somebody you're 19 and then acting like an adult is like going to be more impressive than saying you're 22 years old and then still behaving like a 19-year-old, you know? Like,
right.
It doesn't really make the difference in the end, I don't think.
Yeah.
So if it could lead to any potential discovery of lying, like why put this? Why give yourself this burden?
Yeah, I agree.
But a little bit better than lying about your job.
But that's not the only thing he wants to exactly lie about. When it comes down to this savvy or sweat choice, he doesn't want to do the puzzle because he doesn't want them to know that he's smart. He wants to just seem strong and dumb. And that's an interesting choice. I guess it's valid. He doesn't want to be seen as a double threat, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that he's worried about this, but then later when the tribe is having difficulty starting fire, he just like comes in and starts that shit like no problems. And like showing people that you're good at fire is probably way worse than showing them that like you're strong, like you're athletic. It's like, we can see you're athletic, Sammy. Like you're freaking like ripped and jacked. Like
well, yeah, that's why he couldn't hide that, but he wanted to hide that he was smart.
Intelligent. Yeah.
But I think like just in terms of what I've seen, like people don't pay attention to that fire meta necessarily, but they do pay attention to this. Are they going to be able to do puzzles and finish challenges things? So
I guess so. For me, I'm going to be much more intimidated by somebody that looks like they could start a fire in 2 seconds. But
you're just on another level.
Maybe. I don't know. Puzzles do come up in Survivor. I don't think, someone is necessarily, just because they nail one puzzle doesn't mean they're universally going to be good at all puzzles. All puzzles
Yeah.
like are different, but I don't know. He could have just let the tribe fail here. It's not terrible. I don't know. I think the consequences is like you just don't have your stuff, and maybe tribe life becomes bad. I think there's some merit to him just letting the tribe fail here.
But let's talk about this puzzle.
Okay.
We didn't actually describe it. So they open a case, and there are a bunch of bones in the shape of numbers. So like think
Like digital clock.
an old cow, yeah, like a digital clock where you have segments
Each
of numbers. Yeah. And the rules for this puzzle are you can move 2 bones and you have to make the largest whole number possible. And I do not recall the number they started with.
Yeah, so they start with the number 5080, so 5080. So imagine like you had the number 0, and then to make the number 0 out of bones, you have to have like a bone on the top and the bottom, and then 2 bones on each side. It's like,
Yes.
So yeah, just like a digital clock would kind of look with the little
And if
lines.
you wanted to make an 8 out of that, you would put an extra bone in the middle.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of like bone manipulation we're talking about.
Yeah. And what is the objective of this puzzle?
It's to make the largest number possible, whole number possible.
By moving only 2 bones.
By moving only 2 bones.
Okay, yeah. So, how did you do with this puzzle, Sarah? I think in the, like, we, as the viewer, you have, like, they have 4 hours to solve this. We have, like, 2 minutes to come up with a theory before they solve it on the show.
Yeah.
Did you come up with anything?
I mean, I don't know that I got a good shot of the entire number.
Yeah.
That I paid attention to, but I was like, well, okay, first start with trying to make 9s out of your first 2 digits, right? Like that's your potential.
And the first digit is a 5, so it was pretty easy.
Yeah. That is not the answer, though.
I actually did come up with an idea that wasn't the full solution, but I was like, if you grab 2 bones, I was a little confused too. Like, I thought like maybe I was thinking too far outside the box. Like, I was like, okay, if you grab 2 bones and you stack them vertically on top of each other, does that make the number 1? Like, I did come up with that idea. This turns out to be like, I didn't get as far as Sammy did, and Sammy's going to come up with a much better progress towards the solution. I was like, the answer that they come up with, like, this puzzle is hard, right, Sarah?
Yeah.
Like, this is
definitely.
like, you have to, like, maybe I probably have played maybe a similar puzzle to this, or if you've ever done like a booklet or like an app game where like you have to, every solution, like, you have to think outside the box. But I don't think it's clear based on the instructions that they like, the solution to this puzzle is like, you're going to have to think about outside the box.
Right.
So I think it's actually, if I was the producers on the show, like, I would think like, if people choose savvy, chances are they're going to fail. And I think the producers probably expected them to fail here. Or I think Survivor is a good enough show that the right answer that is going to be had here is like what the show thought the right answer was, Like, to me, it was so outside the box that I was thinking, like, maybe the show actually had a different right answer, but then they came up with an even better solution, and then they, like, had to alter the answer card and then, like, reshoot the scene or something. Like, that's how outside the box this solution is. So, Sammy realizes... Do you want to describe this, or do you want me to describe it?
Yeah, so there are at least 2 zeros in this starting number. And so he realizes if you take the top bone and the bottom bone from a 0 and then like put it somewhere else to use as a 1, that you're adding a whole extra 2 digits to this number, and that's going to make it way bigger, right?
Yeah. So the 0 that you took the bones off of becomes 2 1s when you take the top and the bottom of it, and then you can create another one.
A third one. Yeah.
So they're turning a 4-digit number into a 6-digit number, which is even bigger than what I was thinking when I was like, you can make a 5-digit number.
Right. And then I think it was Janine was specifically like, oh wait, but not that 0. Let's do this 0.
Yeah.
And that made it even bigger.
Janine realizes where the exact placement of all the ones in the 6-digit number to make it as high as possible. So Janine gets the last bit, but Sammy really like discovered the piece that broke the puzzle. Yeah. Super impressive. I think this is like crazy hard. And I don't know, like, I don't think they get this if Sammy's not there, Like, so the
Yeah,
entire
yeah, I think
success
you're
of
right.
this was dependent on Sammy deciding whether or not he wanted to help the tribe get this right.
Yeah. He was real close to not helping.
I don't know. Do you just let this fail, Sarah?
No, because I don't want to sleep on the
Well, yeah.
ground.
If you're
I am
Sammy, though, if you're Sammy, if
driven.
you're a 19-year-old strapping young lad, Sarah.
Oof. I don't even want to imagine. Um, no, but
you
I
just
mean,
say like, I'm way better fit to like survive out here with nothing compared to my tribe mates. Like,
I guess.
Like I don't.
I
need
guess if
machete.
you really believe that them knowing that you're good at puzzles or whatever is gonna be a big issue later, then yeah, that's the move. But I don't
know.
I don't know that is true, you know?
The only upside is that like, okay, you're not falling behind the other tribes in terms of like shelter and exhaustion.
Well, not just that, it's also
like that.
morale. Like
morale too. Yeah, that's fair.
Your team to not lose the first immunity challenge. It's better if they, at least feel like they're doing all right.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not that it made a difference because they did in fact lose that immunity challenge, but still.
I don't know, Sarah.
You think it's
put me in this spot? I don't know. I would definitely say I would at least use the 4-hour timer. Maybe wait till 3.5 hours and then have a eureka moment if you decide to do it. But which seemed to be what he did a little bit. He made it seem like, he sat there with this information for at least a little bit before he was like, guys, watch this. I figured it out. But
I think he was really just hoping somebody else
I don't know.
would figure it out.
Is it
so
too dirty?
Deal with it.
What would you think of me if you watched me on Survivor and I there was a confessional where it was like, I figured it out, here's the answer, and then I didn't tell my tribe.
Does it matter? Because if it gets you to win Survivor, does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I'm
what
just
anybody
curious.
thinks about you?
What do you think of this person that would do this?
I think it's kind of silly because I don't think it's going to be like the deciding factor.
Okay.
Because like you were saying, like worrying about the challenges and whatnot is an older style of play, right? Like that's not the thing.
It's a little too far ahead. Like, if you never do a puzzle until the merge, like your tribe will probably keep you around if they think you're strong and good at puzzles. Like they'll keep you around to the merge. And if you don't do another puzzle, like between now and the merge, are they really going to remember that you were like had one genius moment?
Yeah, definitely. I think
like even Cody in the one challenge, who I don't think is a genius, like he came up with the solution to get the flint off the post, like I don't think that people are going to be threatened that Cody came up with that solution on the first challenge on the beach. So
now I just
you're
really
probably
hope Cody
right.
wins to bother me.
It also but what's so I kind of like relish these moments where like, oh, like I could totally be the hero right now and it would be awesome and everybody like, oh yeah, you're so awesome. But you know what? I have the mental fortitude to be like, I don't need that. I'm gonna pass and I'm gonna take the punishment. Why not? I don't know. There's something about that just seems so badass to me, but that I might just do it.
You know what's great? Not sleeping on the ground, not getting rained on. That's what's great.
Dude,
that's what
Sammy can
just
me. Rip bamboo with his bare hands.
Well, then he better get ripping, I guess, if he's gonna make a weird choice like this.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'd probably just cave and solve it. But maybe you just burn the clock to make it be like, okay, I was struggling with it as much as you guys were, and I just happened to get it after 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
But you don't want to like look at it. You definitely don't want to like look at it and like in 5 minutes be like, I got it, guys. Like I don't think that's the move either.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe he waited a long ass time and he played it. He played this perfectly, Sarah. I don't know.
Solid maybe. All right. That's all the people.
That is all the people. What did I want to say? I still have more on Sammy. I will say this about Sammy. Sammy is probably the most impressive 19-year-old I've ever seen on the show.
Okay.
In the rewatch, I was more impressed with him with my initial watch. I watched Survivor live and then I rewatched it for the podcast.
Yep.
There were a few moments that didn't stand out to me that I didn't think about where I think his age might show a little bit.
Okay.
Now he only said he's 22, so like they probably believe that he's 22 because that's still young. But how he like lied about being 22 wasn't as sneaky as I thought it was. The second time I watched it, I was like, oh, that wasn't that great. And then he's gonna have a little bit of a moment with Gabler in the immunity challenge where he might come across as a young person with how he handled this. It wasn't terrible.
Or just kind of an asshole.
it just gives the vibe of a young person. Yeah, I was kind of high on Sammy after the initial watch, and I'm a little like, I still like him, but I don't necessarily I think his age is going to catch up with him, despite how impressive he has been.
Yeah.
But yeah, very impressive. Very impressive for a 19.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready for? I guess we should just talk about the immunity challenge.
Yes.
Not much to talk about it, but we can you can at least describe
Standard, like kind of an obstacle course. They had to crawl through some mud and then into a big pile of leaves where there were 3 balls attached to some sort of pole that was low to the ground they had to untie. So basically it accomplished tarring and feathering them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're covered in mud and then they're covered in all these dried leaves. And so that was everybody. Everybody had to come through and do that. And then one person has to like dig in the sand under a log so they can like slither under the log and get to the other side and release a ramp. And then everybody goes up the ramp. Somebody walks across a really thin balance beam. And once they're across, they can release it so it's a wider one. So it's easier for everybody to go across. And then they get to pick whoever gets there first. They're like these 3 ball rolly games, which I think they had last season and seems like a common theme in Survivor.
They're reused for sure.
Yeah. So you get to pick whichever one you want if you're first, and then you got to go get those 3 balls into the 3 little
holes or notches or
divots
whatever.
For the balls. Yeah, at the end of this game thing. Yeah.
Very a lot of steps in this challenge.
Yes.
Very involved. They like to go big on these first challenges, I think. This location that they show the challenge is like their like big obstacle challenge location. Whenever they have these climbing like a big wall or whatever.
Right.
This is the spot that you'll see it a lot of times. Do you enjoy watching challenges on the show, Sarah?
Yeah, they're all right.
They're all right.
As long as nothing gross is happening.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like people that are like super fans of the show, might think the challenge is the most boring part of the show. Whereas like the casual fans might only be watching the show for the challenges. And they don't care about the gameplay and all that like tribal stuff as much. I think the challenges are fun to watch, not necessarily particularly fun to talk about, unless something really interesting happened. But this challenge was basically like straightforward. Nothing super interesting happened.
I mean,
a team lost in the end. It's like
people got covered in mud.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
James lost his pants. And that was about it. Those are the notes.
The only confrontation that happens that the show chooses to show in this challenge is that when they get to the ball maze at the end, 2 people have to do it, and Gabler and Sammy are the 2 people on it, and
they're not doing particularly well.
They keep getting to like the end of the ramp, and they just have to get the ball, like move it just a little bit to like get it in the hole. And from Sammy's perspective, he feels like he's in control and about to get it in, and then like Gabler is like twitching or moving in a way that is messing him up, and he is like has a little bit of a moment where he's like really publicly like saying like, "Oh, you keep messing me up, man," and like stuff like that. Like kind of a thing that a multiple younger person would do.
Yeah,
that in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Like an older person would be like. All right, let me like take the lead when we get there next time or something like something more like we got this, like keep like we can do this, like just I think if you don't make as big movements, I can do this like by myself or something like that, and you like whisper it to them too. You wouldn't be so loud about it.
Yeah, you don't want to publicly shame people.
Yeah,
but like even one of the other teams was having trouble, and what they did is they both held on to both sides of it. They kind of did a like one person.
It was like a little bit of like what you would like do on a date with somebody.
Yeah.
Like if you're like teaching somebody how to
pottery
golf.
And Ghost, like the one guy's behind, it's just yeah.
100%. But it made it easier for their maze. Like it made sense.
Yeah.
I think they did it the right way.
Mm-hmm. But Sammy's not exactly that emotionally mature, so he was getting very publicly frustrated with Gabler.
Yeah.
Which...
No, I don't think it was like the most terrible display of emotions, but it was something compared to what everybody else was doing. So.
And I think it definitely influences what comes later with Gabler. Like,
it influences Gabler. Yeah,
like,
he feels the responsibility that Sammy is putting on him for the situation. But in terms of like how the rest of the tribe sees Sammy, And even how, like, every other tribe in the game, every other player in the game is also at this challenge and seeing Sammy and forming their own opinions on him in this moment.
Yeah.
And if they decide, like, oh, this is just a young dude who's kind of a bit of a hothead, even though he's not even that much of a hothead, they just saw him in this one moment. And this might be the label that they put on him for the rest of the game. And he just might never be able to recover from this. Like, it's crazy how much that, like, these things can snowball sometimes.
Yeah. So, like, even though, like, challenges might be boring for your seasoned super fans, like, it's an important time for where those social dynamics can happen. Like, if you're not behaving well, like, everybody who doesn't normally interact with you will see it and not going to be great for you.
Yeah. There's so many subtleties that, like, it's hard to, like, even I've never played Survivor before. Like, there are so many subtleties that I don't understand, no matter how, like, many interviews or talks I hear with, like, former survivors. Like, there's stuff you just, like, won't understand until you're out there. But yeah, the yellow tribe loses.
Yep. Doesn't even really matter who got in first of the other teams because they don't win anything special. They're just both don't have to go to tribal. Yeah.
It was like you just didn't have to come last. Winning didn't matter here. Later they're gonna have the first one. They just
rewards
do an immunity challenge.
Whatever,
later,
right?
like back in the day, like every episode used to have like an immunity challenge and a reward challenge. And then again, similar to how they just like got rid of the opening credits, they were like, you know what, like we don't need 2 challenges per episode. Like we're better off showing the camp life and the strategy.
Yeah.
So what they do is they'll combine the immunity challenge and the reward challenge as one challenge a lot of the times.
And so if you get first, you get the reward.
Yeah, if you get first, you get like a bigger reward, and then second place might get a smaller reward, or maybe just will only win immunity. That's how they do it going forward. But this challenge for the first episode is just for immunity, no reward. Okay. Yellow Tribe go to Tribal Council, Sarah.
Yep.
I actually don't have, like, I've watched so many Survivors over the years, so to me this is like, pretty standard tribal dynamic that comes up here.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what you thought was interesting or your perspectives.
Oh, well,
in the before they go to Tribal Council,
before they go to tribal. Well, like as soon as they get back, Gabler immediately is like making this big speech about how like he knows like he's to blame for losing or whatever, and he's not gonna hide behind his idol, but he's gonna take a shot in the dark. And it's just like, this seems bizarre.
Okay, yeah, this is a weird moment that doesn't normally happen. So he talks about the shot in the dark. The shot in the dark is a new mechanic in the show.
But it was if
you haven't watched the last 2
season,
seasons and you've watched other seasons, you have no idea what this is. So I think I should explain it. So the shot in the dark is a one-time chance that everybody in the game has an opportunity to use once if they want to, where when they go to vote at Tribal Council, instead of voting, they can use their shot in the dark, and then they pick a piece of parchment out of a bag.
It's like a 1 in 6 chance.
Yeah, and they have a 1 in 6 chance of winning immunity for that Tribal Council. But they have to sacrifice their vote to win that immunity. So
yes,
it's very much a like desperation thing that you would do where you're like, well, everybody's voting for me anyway. My vote doesn't matter. I might as well take a 1 in 6 chance that I'll be safe. And it really doesn't do much. So far in 2 seasons, no one has won when they played Shot in the Dark. And very few people have even played it.
Yeah.
I think in the first season that they did it, only one person did it, and it was like late in the game. But yeah, it doesn't really change the game that much, but it does like add this extra layer of paranoia where everybody's like, well, we can't tell this person, we can't let this person know that they're the target, because then they might play their shot in the dark, and then there's a 1 in 6 chance that like our plan is going to be destroyed. So it's kind of cool. I like this new, it's like a twist, but I think it's like a staple in the game now that it's the 3rd season they're doing it. It makes it so like you never get a tribal where, everybody decided to vote this person out and they told them beforehand that it's going they're going home, and you don't have these like boring tribal councils where everybody already knows the outcome of the tribal council, and it's just kind of like going through the motions.
Completely sure.
So like the person that goes home now because of the shot in the dark is always blindsided. Because no one is ever going to tell them they're going home, because they
did
don't
that
want
happen
them to
a
play
lot
the shot in the
before?
dark.
People would just be like, yeah, you're going home, whatever. Can't do anything about it, i.e.
More in the early days of Survivor.
Okay.
Once they had hidden immunity idols, that added paranoia because there's always a chance that somebody has a hidden immunity idol. But there would still be points in the game where, like, okay, say like, okay, there could only be like 2 hidden immunity idols in the game or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like you're pretty confident like there can only be 1 or 2, and like you have one, and like your ally has one. Like no chance anybody else in the game has an idol, basically. So you might just be like, oh, I like this guy. I'm gonna tell him that I'm voting him out tonight. Like I just as like a sign of respect. Like he doesn't want to lie to his face one more time before voting him out. But now you have to do it because you don't want people playing their shot in the dark. Even though it's only a 1 in 6 chance of it succeeding, you just can't. You can't let people know. So I like this added layer of paranoia, and like you can never just not play the game. You have to lie to people up until the point that they're being voted out. Now
that's all well and fine, but Gabler's whole speech is nonsense.
Gabler doesn't make any sense here. No.
Yeah, it's like
he's
just use your idol if you think you're going to get voted for. I don't remember I did not write down the exact shit he said, but he basically takes ownership for being the reason they lost the challenge, and he's not going to hide behind an idol, but he'll use his shot in the dark. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, what? Either you want to take responsibility and go home for some weird reason, or you use the tools that have been given to you to not go home.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And it's actually like a lie, or he doesn't understand the rules, or he is trying to trick people into thinking that the rules work a certain way. Because I'm pretty sure the way the shot in the dark works is like you use it at the same time that you would potentially play an idol. So he can go get his piece of paper, and then before the votes are read, he says, Jeff, I played my shot in the dark. He unrolls the piece of paper. It says, oh, you're still not safe. Like he loses. And then he's like, oh, now that I'm not safe, I'll play my idol. Like exactly. It doesn't actually make sense what he's trying to sell here. And I can't tell if he doesn't understand the rules or if he's just trying to manipulate everybody. But his reasoning doesn't make any sense. Like, I messed up in the challenge, so I need to take ownership for that and waste my shot in the dark, like as like a punishment. I didn't really understand what he was saying at all.
From my perspective, it seems like he is really just like paranoid that like he already thinks because he's the old guy, he's going to get voted out. And now he thinks because he fucked up the challenge, he's going to get voted out. And he's just desperately like trying to appeal to them in some way to be like, don't vote for me, whatever, but it just seems weird that he won't use his idol, but like he's trying to like appear noble or something, because then like later Ellie's like, what are you doing? Don't do that. And he's just like, okay, I won't play that. She's like, nobody's gonna vote for you, stop it. And he's like, fine, I won't play the shot in the dark. Like it takes nothing to get him to back down from this. And I think he was just flustered and paranoid and just saying nonsense because he was concerned.
What would make sense to me, and this is definitely a possibility, is that Gabler is still of the position that he is the most likely target because he's the old guy.
Yeah.
And he knows everybody knows he has an idol, but he doesn't want to use it at this tribal council. So he's saying to everybody, you know what, like he's like, the reason he comes up with doesn't really make sense, but maybe he didn't want to just tell people like, oh, I'm going to use my idol or whatever. So he was like, you know what? I feel bad about how I performed the challenge, and I'm just going to use my shot in the dark tonight. And then he's basically intimidating them, saying like, you better not vote for me because I'm going to use my shot in the dark, which is an interesting strategy.
Yeah.
But we didn't get like a confessional from him explaining why he did this.
Behind this. Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's hard to necessarily believe that that's what he was going for, because I would hope that if he said this in a confessional, that the show would have put it in.
Yeah.
And sometimes because like it's very hectic before tribal, maybe he didn't have time to do a confessional, and maybe we'll get this confessional at the beginning of next episode.
Oh, yeah, that's
the reason why he did it. So I think that it is an interesting play if that's what he's going for. Now it's a dishonest play, and it's a very public dishonest play. That he's saying, I'm just going to play my shot in the dark, and then he's not going to play it. So he's not gaining allies by doing this. But if he really is convinced that as an old guy, he's the most vulnerable going home, maybe this is a decent play. I don't know. it's similar to like Carla. Like maybe she should have taken a risk on the
I guess.
thing, because if she really feels like she's somebody that usually would go home first, like she needs a little help. So maybe he's sacrificing, maybe like being totally honest with people and making a stronger alliance by ensuring that he won't get voted out here.
I don't know. It seemed frantic and weird.
He did.
I don't know.
I don't think his sell was the best, but maybe the strategy behind it was actually more sound than it appeared. I hope we get. I know you're not a fan of Gabler. I hope we get a like some element of what he was going for here in the next episode.
Yeah.
If we don't, I'm inclined to believe that what you're saying is true. He was just a little flustered and didn't know what to do here.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gabler quickly becomes not a target, and yeah, it makes sense. He really shouldn't be a target, considering he has the idol, and now he's threatening to play the shot in the dark, and
yeah,
his idol is only a temporary advantage. It's not something you have to worry about later in the game. But then,
Ellie immediately abandons the girl alliance and says that they should vote out Mariah.
Yeah,
and it's just like, oh.
Yeah,
it happened so quickly.
It happened so quickly as soon as they lost the challenge, and I think she even references like using the word strong. Like we need to keep the tribe strong. Like she is of the mindset that she does not want to go back to tribal council.
But like we didn't see Mariah do poorly in any challenges.
That's what's
which
weird.
Is the thing that I don't understand about this.
There was no they. I think both Ellie and Janine, is it? Mm-hmm. I think they both at some point say like, "Oh, clearly Mariah's the weakest in the challenges." There was no indication,
no evidence
from what we saw that was the case. It still could be true, but it could be a very narrow margin to the point. Like, is this really why you're going to vote somebody out? Like, they're just a little bit worse in a challenge, as opposed to like keeping a women's alliance potentially. That could be now. The gap between Mariah and Owen, who's going to be the alternate target that comes up, could be a pretty big gap in challengeability. Yeah. But is Mariah's gap between Owen that much different between like Ellie's and Owen, or Janine and Owen? Like,
it seems kind of bullshitty, and I don't
and
know.
It's worth mentioning here that Mariah is the only black woman on this tribe. Like,
that is true.
It's very clear and obvious visually that this is what's going on. But I don't think it necessarily is what's happening here. But let's talk more about that once we get through tribal council. Actually, I have some things that we can say.
Okay.
But Mariah has her own plan.
Yeah,
right, Sarah?
She has her own plan. She's talking with Sammy, and Sammy seems in favor of voting out Owen, and so the two of them have their own little pseudo alliance, I guess.
Yeah.
And so Mariah comes back to Janine and Ellie, part of the girl alliance that they said they had, and is like, hey, let's vote out Owen. And I think this is the reasonable plan. Like, Janine realizes this, where it's like, we should vote out a dude so we're not outnumbered as women. That's the better move. And so I really thought that that's how it was going to go, because that's where we're left before tribal, right? Where this is the last thing that people are talking about.
Yeah. So it breaks down very quickly to it's Ellie's plan versus Mariah's plan.
Right.
But right away, like, it's not a good sign for Mariah, though. I'll say this, because Mariah's plan isn't to get out Ellie.
Yeah.
And Mariah's plan involves Ellie voting with her.
Right.
So the chances, it's more likely, at this point, that Ellie is going to stick with her own plan and not go with the plan of the person she was targeting out.
I just thought the logic might have.
I agree. I think the logic
through.
Is, in this situation, I think the women's alliance should have prevailed. But I guess Ellie and maybe Janine potentially are just like, I really just don't want to go back to tribal council, and they're all in on this strategy, because if this is how they think the game should be played, like after they vote on Mariah, either Ellie or Janine is the next worst challenge performer.
Yep.
So almost without a doubt, like if they go back to tribal, like if the tribe votes for the same reasons, like Ellie or Janine will be the next target. And they're like signing up for this because they would just rather feel like they won't go back to tribal,
which is dumb. Everybody goes back to tribal. Like,
maybe there's some dynamics going on. Maybe Owen is like really on the outs, and maybe Owen would be the next one to go. You know, it's hard to get the full dynamic of the tribe.
Yeah.
And maybe right here, it's really just a choice between Owen and Mariah. And they're like, well, like both Owen and Mariah are the out two, and Mariah's worse in challenges. So they're just choosing between those two people. I don't know.
Yeah, but again, like there's no evidence that like they're worse in challenges. The only person who's shown not being good at a challenge so far is Gabler, but that's only because Sammy was yelling at. Like it's all very silly.
But I'm just saying the core, like say the core group of 4 people that are like, they have actually like agreed, like, okay, we feel most comfortable with these 4. Those are Ellie, Janine, Gabler, and Sammy. And really, the reality of the situation is that Mariah and Owen are the 2 people out on the odd people out that aren't in the majority lines. And between Owen and Mariah, they're just voting out Mariah because she's worse in challenges. And that's like, that ultimately could just be the actual decision that was made. But that wasn't the angle that the show chose to highlight, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
They made it like Mariah's plan versus Ellie's plan, but really like maybe Mariah never stood a chance, you know? And the idea for Owen to be the backup vote, they made it seem like Mariah kind of came up with it, but like, you know, maybe Sammy put it in her head that would be a good option or something like that, you know? It
did feel a little like that was from Sammy.
Yeah. So I think there could be more going on here than what was shown. It could just be, you know, Mariah. Who do we want out? Who do we want to keep? Mariah or Owen? And they just chose Owen over Mariah.
Yeah.
Because Mariah is going to be the one that's voted out eventually.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing spectacular happens at Tribal Council. What do you have anything from Tribal Council?
There's just an interesting moment where Mariah tries to say that, you know, they really did all win today because they went out there, they put everything into the challenge, they didn't give up, they left it all on the field or whatever sports metaphor you want. And immediately everybody's like, no, we lost. This is bullshit. Winning challenges is winning.
They do that a lot, especially to like early boots where they like they highlight this moment at Tribal Council where like they seem like they're not on the same page with the rest of the tribe.
Yeah. And then they all vote her out, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. The other points of note are that Gabler does not play his shot in the dark, and he does not play his idol. So
correct.
At the end of the day, he didn't do anything. Nothing happened at the Tribal Council. Yeah. After talking it through just now, like I really think like, you know, Gabler, Samly, Ellie, and Janine, I think they're the like core 4 of this tribe.
Yeah.
And if I had to guess, I would say Owen is probably just going to get voted out if they have to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I am. I think like the Women's Alliance was a bit of like a red herring for the show to use to create a drama going to Tribal Council, but I don't know how real it really ever was.
Yeah.
But yeah, the show's got to do what it do. Got to do what it's got to do to make the Tribal Council as interesting as possible. So yeah. Now we can talk about, or Sarah, what are your thoughts on Mariah as a player? And do you want to talk about like, you know, other dynamics that may have contributed to her?
Well, as you said, like she's the only Black woman on this team. Like Janine and Owen are Asian, and then everybody else is white. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a conscious effort, but like,
I don't
feel
think
like there has been a history of like Black people getting voted out earlier in Survivor. There was a particular moment in last season where everybody on the like ending jury up to a certain point was shaping up to be Black folks in the beginning, and there was a big whole kerfuffle in a vote where that changed everything, but really like talked out loud about how this is an issue and it's upsetting. So yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if that was a contributing factor in this situation too.
It comes down to more of just like, okay, the people that you're drawn to, or like, you know, you're more likely to like bond with somebody that has like similar life experiences, you know?
Yeah.
That's how I kind of view it. And the potential like cultural differences between peoples of different race could be enough to like make it so I'm going to explain like my strategy for this first Tribal Council, and like the most likely scenario to happen in these tribes of 6 is that a majority 4 forms, and then the two people are on the outs, because it just makes the most sense from a numbers perspective to like make a 4, vote somebody out, and then now you have one person if you have to go back to tribal again. So like don't make an alliance of 5, vote somebody out, and then you have to maneuver your way into the top 4 later. It's just like you establish a 4 and then you're good for 2 votes basically.
Yeah.
And it's I might be overanalyzing this. Maybe there isn't a core 4, but they're able to manipulate Mariah potentially and tell her to vote for Owen. And then they're also able to tell Owen to vote for Mariah. So Mariah actually goes home on a 5-1 vote. And Mariah and Owen, we didn't get any interaction between them. As like there was no strategy talk between those 2 players. So yeah, having a 4-2 split and being in the 4 majority is like probably the most popular solution to the 6-person tribe alliance. And that might be what it is here. And just through whatever life experiences and common backgrounds, like these are the 4 people that gravitated to each other.
Yeah.
And it's possible, maybe Gabler wasn't part of the plan, but because of his idol, he became part of the plan. And maybe Mariah was boxed out at that point.
Maybe.
Now, they could have voted out Owen instead of her, but ultimately they want it to be 4 people and not 5. So maybe they kicked her out of the 4 and then because she was worse in challenges, they decided to go with her. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the show did sort of set up that Ellie and Gabler bond a little bit, like with the heavy metal music thing.
Yeah.
And like how she was the first one to talk to him after his little outburst of like, I'm going to do my chance in the dark or whatever.
Yeah.
So he does feel like core 4 right now.
Yeah. There's a little bit of one-sided bonding. Like Ellie knew she was manipulating the situation.
Yeah.
But, you lie to somebody and get them to bond with you. It's almost now it's like, they trust me. I might as well trust them, like,
yeah.
Like if they trust me, I can trust them. So it might've been like hey, I wasn't expecting to be aligned with this 51-year-old dude, but we found a way to have common ground and it worked out,
Yeah.
So it's a bit of randomness. The other aspect of this is that how old is Mariah? Mariah's 28, a little bit older, but a young Black woman literally won the last season of Survivor. And there could just be a little bit of like, they see Mary Ann in her in like a super superficial way at like a subconscious level. That could have also contributed to this. Now, I don't think like personality wise, even though Mariah was wearing like bright colors and had bright color hair and like
she's very
seemed like an outgoing person if you just looked at her, she was not on the Marianne level of outgoing.
Yeah.
Like Marianne is on a whole nother level of
definitely
like might be the most excited person ever to be on Survivor. Like she was the energy level when she showed up on the beach the first day was crazy. So Mariah to me was a totally different personality than Marianne was. But superficially, if people might subconsciously be thinking like, oh wow, she looks a lot like the last person that won the show. So I don't know.
A lot of different potential factors.
It sucks. It sucks because it's like it's without fail almost like it's gotten to the point in the show, and it's partially because they have a bigger diversity, and it's good that this is happening. But there will be a discussion about race at some point in the show, usually.
Yeah.
Now it's not going to come. It won't come up from this Mariah vote necessarily. But I bet if you interviewed like all the other Black players in the game and asked them like, oh, how did you feel seeing that Mariah was the first person out of the game? I bet they all had some level of an emotional reaction to it.
Yeah.
Which is totally fair. But it doesn't necessarily mean, there was any ill will or animosity from her tribe. It's just it's just something that kind of sucks that there's been so much like pain in the past from stuff like this that it's hard to see it happen and not have some emotional reaction to it.
Right. Definitely.
Even if it was nothing, even if it really was totally unrelated.
And it's basically impossible to figure out if it is totally unrelated, Yeah,
there's no way to prove it. And it's very similar to last year. Like I don't think there was an intention by the other players in the game to like vote out 3 Black people in a row. But the way that it looked, because it was like the start of the jury, was like 2 Black people got voted out in a row, and then like this tribal council we went into it and the plan was to vote out another black person, and it's just
Yeah.
like to see that and not have an emotional reaction to it is like hard to do. And so it created a conversation about it on the show.
Yeah. And it's one of those points it's worth examining, like the kind of unconscious bias that everybody has. Like you got to take a minute and think like, yeah, I wasn't intentionally trying to vote all the black people out, but all the black people were getting voted out, so something was happening, right? Like it feels like there's something to examine and fix, right?
Yeah. All right. That's Survivor. That's the episode.
But are you going to tell us about your sweet strategy for first tribal?
You want to hear my first tribal strategy? This is
yes.
I'm a little bit like obsessed with this right now.
Okay.
As like I would like wanted this to work out so much on the show that like I might like there's a good chance that I will just look like an absolute fool. Like this strategy is so crazy.
Okay.
So I just kind of explained like, okay, the ideal scenario for most survivors in these 6-person alliances or 6-person tribes is like, okay, form an alliance of 4.
Right.
And then you have 2 votes. Like that's probably the most likely scenario to happen on any tribe survivor in a starting 6.
Yeah.
And now 4-person alliance is pretty good, right? Pretty good amount of people. But they're voting with each other is what, builds, strengthens alliances in the game. You can make all the promises you want, but until you vote together, you're not really committing or really proving yourself to anybody in the game.
That makes sense.
So I actually think just in general, this is not my strategy, like the full extent of my strategy. I think in general, like you want to go to at least one tribal council with your initial tribe. Like you don't want to win every immunity challenge because you really will not have established any true allies in the game until you go to tribal council.
All right, I'm following. Now, that makes sense.
My strategy about trying to form my strategy at its core is just like I'm trying to form the strongest bond, the most powerful like loyalty, basically like the strongest alliance in the game but not necessarily from a numbers perspective, but just from the strength of your trust for each other and your loyalty to each other. And the only way to do that, like it is to like vote with somebody, but is to, really put your life in the game in somebody else's hands almost, or put your life on the line in the game for somebody else. So people that maybe don't watch the show might be thinking, okay, what happens in Survivor when there's a tie? The vote goes to a tie. Yes. What happens in Survivor when vote goes to a tie is I think they revote once. Like they give you a chance to switch your vote. They revote. If it's still a tie after a revote, what happens is the people that received votes, they become safe. They essentially have immunity now. Everybody else that is not safe,
basically who could not agree,
they are given an opportunity to talk to each other, where if they can unanimously decide, the 2 people are not safe yet. What happens is the people will talk, and if they can unanimously, now it has to be unanimous, not just most votes. If they can unanimously decide which of the 2 people that tied on the vote, which of them they want to vote out, they can do that, and then that person will go home. So in a 6-person tribe, you would have like a 3-3 vote. 2 people would get voted for. 4 people now, 2 on each side of the vote. 2 of them would have to agree to switch their vote, basically, and go to the other side. Now you're incentivized to come to a unanimous agreement, because the punishment for not coming to a unanimous agreement is that the 2 people that received votes become safe, and the 4 people that could not come to unanimous agreement now have to draw rocks to decide who goes home. So in that scenario, 4 people would be drawing rocks. They'd each put their hand in a bag, pull out a rock. Whoever gets the odd rock out gets their torch snuffed and goes home. So a lot of people don't want to go to rock draw, Sarah, as you can imagine.
I would argue that no one wants to go to rock
draw. Oh, okay. Well,
except for maybe you, I guess, is where this is headed.
Rock draws, I feel like, are very unexplored part of the game, in my opinion. Okay. So the only time rock draws happen, it's usually later in the game, and it's usually like there's a line in the sand. There's 5 people on one side, 5 people on another, or like 4, whatever, and they just both feel like the other alliance is 100% with each other, and if they lose one person from their alliance, they're going to get steamrolled for the rest of the game. So both sides are willing to make it a tie and draw rocks because they just think that is the only way that we're going to decide this.
Right.
But I have another plan, Sarah.
For the first tribal council.
The first tribal council. Let's go to rocks. Why not? Here, let's do it.
Okay.
And there's a lot of good reasons too.
Okay.
First part of the plan, Sarah, is though you have to be good enough to get in the core 4 alliance.
Okay.
Now, if the tribe somehow was split 3-3, you could just there could be a natural rock draw, but that's very unlikely to happen. Most likely, it'll be a 4-2, and you have to be in the 4.
Okay. Step 1: get in the 4.
Get in the 4. Now that's easier said than done, but even if it was just like totally random, you have like a 67% chance of being in the 4 alliance, right?
Okay.
Assuming no advantages or disadvantages are in play. So good chance you get in the 4.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, what you're going to do is not vote with the 4. You're going to go to the other 2. Now, it works best if the other 2 people are working together. In this scenario where we talked about, Mariah and Owen didn't seem like they were necessarily on the same page. So it would be a tough sell to go to them and be like, hey, these 4 people that you're both working with separately are gonna vote for you, and I'm here to save you. Like it would have been a tough sell in this scenario.
Yeah,
if that's
definitely
what happened.
Mm-hmm.
If somehow the vote is a 5-1, you have no chance of forcing a tie. So this plan goes full bail. But I think 4-2 is very common that you can kind of count on it happening.
Makes sense.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the other 2 people and tell them the truth. Just like be like, I got pulled into a group of 4. These 4 people are targeting you at the first tribal, and they told me they are voting for this person. Like basically give them all the information, and you are essentially like putting your life in the game in their hands, because they could try to like rat you out to the rest of everybody or something. Like if they don't believe you. At that point, you could just deny it, like be like, wow, they came up with a crazy thing. Like that totally didn't happen. And then you could just try to vote with the 4 at that point if they don't trust you.
I'm beginning to see a million things could go wrong.
Oh, a million things could go wroong. Yeah. But I think, you can maneuver your way out of them. Okay. I don't think like the vote would instantly go to you if like this became like a he said, she said thing or whatever. But I think they're going to be incentive. If these 2 people are working together, like chances are they should have some level of a vibe. And if you tell them the truth, it's probably going to make a lot of sense to them.
Now, when you tell them you've come to save them, you only have 3 votes altogether.
It like that. Yeah,
well, yeah. But you only have 3 votes altogether.
We only have 3 votes, but if they were going to get voted out anyway, like this is better than nothing, right?
But I mean, do you explain the rest of the plan?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'm not necessarily going to explain why I'm doing it, but it's
okay.
So, okay, you've told them that they're on the outs. Now you don't necessarily even have to like be like, oh, we 3 should vote for this specific person. Like they can just vote for the person they were going to vote for anyway, and you just vote with them.
What if they were going to vote for you? Oh no.
They could have been voting for you. That's when you have to say like, no, I want to be with you. Like, let's vote as a 3 on somebody else. Like you obviously, if they were going to vote for you, you can't do that. But okay, say you convince them. You're like, okay, well, let's go to a draw. They're going to vote for one of the 2 people, right?
Yes.
So if you force the draw, and even if they're unwilling, if the other side is unwilling to join you, one of the 2 people that's not you is going to be safe. So the idea is that you're going to use the rock draw to gain trust with your allies, basically, like by putting your life on the line in the rock draw, basically. So when it comes to the time to like negotiate whether you can come to an agreement, like you just have to like speak up and be very vocal about how like, I do not want to see this person go. Like I am absolutely willing to go to a rock draw. And you saw this in last season where somebody did this and then the other person like almost instantly caved because they were so scared to be the first person voted out of their tribe that they just were like, you know what, like it's too early in the game. I can't do this. Like, so the math is like, okay, I have a 75% chance of staying in the game and a 50% chance of keeping my alliance of 3 intact. And then on top of that, like, you have a good chance of being like that they'll cave and they won't like go to rocks for their person.
Yeah.
So you actually have like, in my opinion, like pretty decent odds that you're going to survive this, and a good chance that it's like you're going to get what you want out of it.
Interesting.
So if you do survive this, like you have 2 people that like you put your life on the line in the game to save them, and it should create like the bond that you have with each other should be like more powerful than any other alliance in the game at that point, in my opinion. How do you feel about that?
Is your bond as strong with the person who you didn't technically save? Like, you saved them long term, but you didn't save them this particular one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's the perfect storm
Okay.
of this plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you were Gabler in this episode.
All right. Not liking the goatee. Gonna have to shave later.
But you got an immunity idol that's only good for 2 tribal councils.
Okay.
Play the immunity idol on the other person that's not getting votes.
Ooh.
That makes it so they don't even have to draw rocks. So you are the only person in your alliance of 3 that put their life on the line.
Okay, there's a lot of things that could go wrong, but in this perfect storm?
It's a weird sell because it's like, oh, why didn't you just play the idol on the correct person?
That is true.
Which is still a good play. It's like, it's better than just voting as a 4, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a little bit of like, it's not as cool and it's not as trust gaining, because like if you just played an idol on the right person, like you had all the information, you weren't at risk. Like you didn't put your life on the line. So, you know, you're like, thanks for helping me out, but you know, I don't totally trust that you would like save me when the going got tough. So you'd have to do like a weird thing where you like played for the wrong person, and then like after the fact, you'd have to be like, oh, I got a weird vibe at tribal, and I thought they like lied to me about the vote, and I thought they switched it to you, so I panicked or something.
Oh, because you'd have to use it before you got to Rock's time. Okay.
Yeah, you still use it. You have to use it before the votes are read initially.
Interesting. Okay.
Is this crazy?
I think anybody on that tribe is gonna look at you and not be able to make sense of anything that's happening, right? Like, I feel like everything you've described is nothing anybody would do. At the beginning.
Yeah, but I'm doing. I mean, like, you mean like the 2 people that I'm trying to be in an alliance with wouldn't believe me? Who cares what the other 3 people think?
No, I just mean like, I think the other 2 people you're trying to be in alliance with would probably, like, you could probably just tell them what's happening in a compelling enough way to be like, yeah, let's all vote together. But the part where you play an idol on the other person and then you're all also like, no, rocks for this person I just met and have no reason to be strong. Yeah, it looks absurd from the outside, but I cannot fault your logic of this would form a bond.
Okay, so this doesn't have to be, you know, the first tribal council. You don't have to be the yellow tribe in this episode. It's just the first tribal that you go to. So you might have spent like several days with people before you get to the first tribal. In addition, like if you're playing well, say like people we described, like Philly James or Jesse in this episode, who are like very flexible, they're trying to be in good terms with everybody. Like if you play the social game well, by the time you get to the point where you're going to those 2 people, they should have already believed that you were voting with them. You know what I mean? Okay. And you're only coming to them at the last second being like, they like the other 3 pulled me into a group of 4 and they're targeting you. Like they should have already, realistic, like you should have already been voting with them. They should have already thought that you were with them. So you're not really like springing this on them that you're working with them. It's more of like you're springing it on them that, okay, I thought we had this person, but they're actually with this other group. So you should have good terms with everybody enough that you should almost be able to do this with anybody on your tribe if you do it, if you're playing a perfect social game, which is no guarantee that I would be able to do, but you know, I'm just saying this is like, okay, this is the perfect storm of like if you could plan out the perfect first tribal of a game, like I think this is where you would want to be. And then of course, you know, the other people could just be like, you know what? I'm going to go to rocks. And then you just have to win the rock draw. But how exhilarating would that be, Sarah?
is a bold strategy, but you've convinced me. Go for it.
Like, how exhilarating would it be? Like you know me, like I like like years of like preparation and thinking about being on the show and trying to get on the show, and like you finally get on, and now you're just putting your entire efforts and life and on the game on the line on a rock draw. Is there going to be, Sarah, anybody more crazy than me?
No, you're 100%. Yeah, you're
like, what are the
got
odds that I don't get through this rock draw? Like the odd. First of all, I could just win the rock draw, and then on top of that, like, what are the odds that the two people go to rocks? Like, I just don't think it's very high.
Okay.
In my opinion.
But like, here's the question: if it went to rocks and you got picked to be out, would you still be satisfied with your decisions?
If I perfectly executed this plan and then just lost on the rock draw, I'd be like, you know what? That was amazing.
Okay.
How exhilarating was that, you know? I could talk about that moment for like the rest of my life. Like, I could go on like Survivor podcast and be like this strategy was fucking perfect, except I lost the rock draw. Like, imagine if I had won this rock draw. I would have won the game, you know?
I just want to hear what Jeff has to say to you
after Jeff?
These shenanigans.
This is like really my, like, if I could get to like when you make a video for the show, I feel like they don't really want to, whoever in casting like pulls up the video isn't necessarily looking for like intense strategy talk in the 3 minutes that you send your video in for or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, if I could get to the point where I could sit down with Jeff and sit down with the finals casting people, the big people, and I talk about this strategy.
You think they just put you on the show immediately?
Like, the level of insanity that I am willing to go to like strategies in this game, like I think this gets me on the show. I just need to get through like the early stages of casting, and I think I can sell.
Okay.
Like, no other topic on the planet, like, if you talk to me about Survivor, I have a lot to say. But once you get to the actual like meat and potatoes of what is the strategy when you go out there on Survivor, I think I have a lot to offer. And if I pull it off, like, it's gonna make good TV. Yeah. Now I could fall flat on my face, and that could be good TV too. Like, like, you imagine. I think so. Now it might be a difficult edit for them to pull off if, like, you know, I'm actually like not in the majority and I'm going to try to save two people that are in the majority, and then I play an idol on one of them or something. Like, it might be very weird for them to try to explain any of my actions.
Yeah.
You know, so it could look like I'm an absolute idiot at the end of the day.
You just have to have a very in-depth confessional where you're like, this is what I'm doing.
Well, I won't have that confessional because I'll be voted out. Sure. And they won't show it because it's way funnier to just be like, what the hell is this guy doing? But I don't know, like, I'll know, like, even if I get voted out first, you know, like, I'll know what I was going for. Like, I'm not gonna feel that bad about it. I'm in it to win it, Sarah. You know, like, you know, I think some people fall into a trap with, like, they think so highly of themselves, and they think like they're this like amazing social butterfly that like everybody loves them, and they're gonna make everybody their best friend, and they're gonna think like, I'm gonna make everybody think I'm like their number one ally in the game. Like, it's so optimistic to think that way, and it's so unrealistic. That like I'm not gonna go out there thinking like, you know, through my personality alone, I'm gonna be able to convince 2 other people, 4 other, like 3 other people, 4 other people, however many big my alliance wants to be, like, that I'm like their best chance to win the game, and we're gonna bond over like amazing life experience, or like, I don't know, I don't feel like I have the capacity to like BS my way through like social situations like that. Like
okay,
the people who like me, but you know, a lot of people don't get me and they don't like me, you know? So I don't know, I feel like this is a interesting option to just like create an alliance that is rooted in nothing else but the game, you know? Like, even if you had nothing in common with these people other than the fact that they want to be on Survivor and they want to win Survivor, the fact that you put your Survivor life on the line for them, like, regardless of whether or not they're like me or think I'm suspicious or shifty or whatever, like, they can't ignore the fact that I did that. And even if they don't like me, like they should be like, well, I don't know if I like this guy, or I like some other people better, but like this guy like really proved himself. Like, yeah. And after the fact, like you go to them and you're like, don't ham it up too much, but like just be like, hey, I did that because like I just really want to work with you guys in this game, and I want us to be like the final three. And it's like it's genuine, you know. It's like a genuine thing in the moment. I'm not lying to them, you know. Like I have no reason to think I'm gonna get any two better allies the rest of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
It's compelling.
It is. Yeah. All right, you're a little interested. Okay.
Yeah. I hope you get to try it out.
I know, yeah. Most people would just be like, "That's crazy. I would never think about that for 2 seconds." Like,
I mean, I'm not saying it's not crazy.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not crazy either, but most people just be like, no, you can't go to rock draw on the first vote. Like, too many things will change. And I'm like, things are going to change. Like, this is the other thing is like so many people. The reason that this is more likely to work than any other tribal council is first, like, no other alliances have been formed, solidified, because there hasn't been a vote yet. And on top of that, like, so many people just don't like the fear of being the first one out is so great that like I really think like if you want to play aggressive on the first vote, you can like get away with it. Because so many people are just like not willing to put themselves out there on the first vote. They're gonna wait till it, like, they'd rather be in the minority and still be in the game, almost, essentially is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Bold strategy.
Thanks for listening to that. How would you feel, Sarah? Like, we're out there, and I pull this strategy, and you're one of the two. Do you not feel like you can trust me after that?
Do I think that you're too crazy to trust? That's the question. Ooh, I don't know. It could go either way. Probably, yeah, I trust you because like you just saved me, but also you seem like maybe you're too much of a wild card. Who knows? This is a crazy stunt you pulled.
But there's like no way. I don't know. I do see that as a potential reaction. But I just don't see how like you would immediately, like, are you really gonna bail on me and go join the people that literally just voted for you? Like, the odds of that,
obviously not. Yeah.
Now it might be a crazy enough move, depending on like, if people tell the story of the move to the other tribes, and it might like, I don't know, it could become a big deal where like people start seeing you as like a crazy threat, kind of, this guy will do the craziest things. So it could, backfire later in the game. But, I think you pull this off and like you're pretty much set.
I think it is risky if you don't have that extra idol to play on the person who didn't get votes. Because then you're putting them at risk with rocks.
But they were already at risk anyway. Oh, I see what you're saying. They weren't. That's true, yeah. They weren't getting the votes.
I mean, like, long term, they were still going to get voted out, but, like, you potentially
that is the weakness.
Them eliminated.
I think that's the main, like, really, like, flaw in the plan. Like, there might be some resentment for that. Like, the plan can just fail because of, the math. The math, you can just fail on the math, but that is actually, like, the person that has to go to rocks with you has to be as committed to it as you are. That's why it's better if the two people that you're helping, like, are already
aligned.
Yeah, are aligned. Like, they would, like, they're so close that they would be willing to go to rocks for that other person. Now, you might not have been one of those people, but at the end of the day, they would go to rocks for the other person. Something like that. I don't know. Of course, there's a decent chance to get out there. I get out there and, like, I can see, like, okay, this plan's not going to work. But
yeah.
I would be really, like, I've thought about this plan so much, and it's just, like, so, like, I just want it to be a thing that happens on Survivor so bad that, like, I would be, like, I would be really, like, looking for angles, like, okay, all right, let me figure out which 4 people are the closest, and I'm gonna be in that 4, and then I'm gonna betray that 4 instantly. Like, that's really, like, the angles I'd be looking for until that first tribal council.
Yeah, incredible.
It's a little bit different way of playing.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't even know if this is my craziest idea, Sarah.
Oh, really?
I'll leave that for another time.
Okay. Fair enough.
If listeners get to this point in the podcast, Sarah, they want to hear more from me on Survivor, you let me know. I will break it down.
Yeah.
My other crazy idea for an end game crazy idea.
Ooh,
We got the first
okay.
vote and maybe the last.
Just got to figure out the
last
middle.
vote. Yeah, the middle is just just do standard good Survivor as of
Just
now.
get good, yeah, of course.
Do what you thought you should be doing all along, but now add in the crazy. Yeah. Oh, I'm so hyped just talking about this.
So how was it? Finally got to talk about Survivor on the podcast. Was it everything you dreamed of?
Oh yeah.
I guess we don't have to ask if you're going to keep watching. You're obviously going to keep watching.
Oh, me? I mean, I brought it to the show, of course.
Yeah. I might also keep watching. I don't know. You got me into last season. I might finish this season too.
Got to. It's good. Come on. I guess I feel like for you it's like like you see enough people that you don't really like and you're kind of like I don't want to watch these people.
Well,
Your biggest deterrent. Yeah.
But
there has to be like a
there are,
good like people a bit. There has to be a good like more people I like than people I don't like. Like
yeah.
If enough good people you like get voted out, you might bail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, oh, who was the girl from last season I really didn't like? If it was just all a bunch of her, I'd be like, nope, I'm out. Goodbye.
Yeah, she did not have a favorable edit. That character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
But she was like,
crazy.
She was funny in like her own way.
Her own way.
She definitely like triggered me with I would have been like, damn. Like if she said that to me while I was out there, I would have been like, I might have actually like lost my cool for a second. Like, are you kidding me? But
yeah.
All right. Do you have any winner picks?
I don't know that I have winner picks. I just have people I like, which is people I already talked about.
Probably
yeah,
Jesse and Philly James are probably my top two.
Yeah, I like Jesse. And then I like Carla and Gio,
Carla and Gio,
queer kids out there, yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see this Blue Tribes Tribal Council. Feels inevitable.
Oof. So sad.
Yeah. All right. That was awesome.
Yeah.
We still have to talk about next time on Survivor. Not next time on Survivor. Next time, what are we going to talk about on the podcast, Sarah?
What we're going to talk about next time is Andor, the new Star Wars show that just came out.
Oh, okay.
I'm
all right.
kind of pumped.
I was on the fence about even watching that, actually, but I guess I'm watching it now. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, you're watching it. There's 3 episodes out right now. I don't know what we're going to talk about on the podcast, but at least the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll let me know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If you say it's good, I'll probably enjoy it to some level. It's still Star Wars, even if it's like characters I have no idea.
Well, that's part of I watched the first 3 episodes and it wasn't very Star Wars, which is what I love. I don't know. We'll see when we talk about it.
Like that it's like it's in the same universe, but it doesn't feel the same. You like
yeah,
that?
it's refreshing. Yeah. It's like Star Wars shit that isn't about Skywalkers,
Yeah. I got you. I mean, I don't know if I fully agree, but I get what you're saying.
It's got good vibes. I don't know. We'll talk about it next week, but yeah, I'm excited.
I'm down.
Cool.
All right. We just wrap this up, Sarah.
Yes.
We done? Okay.
We got to do the contacting us part.
Yeah. All right, Sarah. Where can people contact us before we say bye on this epic podcast?
People can email us at keepwatchingpod@gmail.com. Tweet at us at keepwatchingpod. Instagram at us at keepwatchingpod, or leave a comment on YouTube also at keepwatchingpod. And if you enjoyed this monster of a podcast, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Yes. Thank you for listening. If anybody made it through this, I really want to know.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.